Chapter 26. How is it possible? The little wizards in the room were surprised again. Snape actually deducted points from Slytherin. They had all heard about Snape's deeds from senior students, and he was so protective of his shortcomings. Could it be that he had changed his character? Merlin's eyelids jumped. He used the word fairness to frame Snape, just to drag the little snakes into the water. Unexpectedly, Snape was so cruel as to deduct points from Slytherin. Based on his understanding of Snape, these 5 points must be deducted from Hufflepuff, or even more. Only in this way can his fairness and protection be demonstrated. Sure enough. Snape's eyes moved slightly, with a bit of sneer. Merlin Handel, I want to ask you where you feel the beauty of potions? Is it your broken alchemy glasses? Of course not, Professor. In fact, I am very interested in making potions. I finished reading Magic Pharmacy and Potion during the holidays. I have mastered the process of making all the potions for the first grade, and I can't wait to start making potions. All. Snape sneered. I actually heard this word from a Hufflepuff student one day. It was really wonderful. So, Mr. Merlin, where does the hemlock essence come from and what is its function? Snape suddenly changed the subject and began to ask a question. The magic potion ingredient extracted from the poison hemlock is mainly used to eliminate the traces of fox charmers. When refining, a water bath method should be used to prevent the hemlock essence from evaporating. It is best to use a distillation bottle to complete the condensation guidance. There is a herb that can be used to make aphrodisiacs and confuses. It is scurvy, a very good herb, but the side effect is that it can easily cause encephalitis. It is a dangerous potion in St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Sorrow. What is the function of bat spleen? To make swelling potion, it needs to be used with swelling beans and balancing balls to achieve the best effect. Merlin answered all 3 questions perfectly. The other little wizards in the room flipped through the book frantically and were stunned to find that what Merlin said was exactly the same as what was in the book. How could someone remember all the contents of the book before school started? It was incredible. Merlin's 2 roommates opened their mouths and couldn't say a word. They also wanted to remind Merlin not to contradict Snape, but they didn't expect this wave to be a counter show. Merlin, you are awesome. I thought you only learned spells, but I didn't expect you to remember potions. The other little badgers were excited. They heard from the seniors that Snape would make things difficult for students from other colleges in potions class. They didn't expect Merlin to answer perfectly. Come on. Come on, Merlin. Great! The little wizards spontaneously cheered for Merlin, and cheers rang out in the classroom. But the Slytherin students' faces turned very bad. This cheer was not for their butts, but for Snape's face. Snape retracted his gaze, wanting to get angry but couldn't find a reason. After a while, he looked at the materials on the table and came up with an idea. Merlin, since you said you have mastered all the theories, then come up and prepare this fireproof potion and then accept the flame test. If you fail, disrupting the class, deceiving the professor, showing off and being arrogant, Hufflepuff will deduct 50 points for you. The faces of the little wizards in the whole room changed. Professor, this is not fair. Merlin's roommate summoned up the courage to shout. How can you ask a first-year wizard to make a potion he has never learned before? It may be difficult for ordinary people, but hasn't Merlin already mastered all the theoretical knowledge? I believe he can make a qualified fire retardant, right? To be fair, if Merlin can make this potion, Hufflepuff will get 50 extra points and Merlin can be exempted from all potions homework this semester. Snape said solemnly. No problem, Professor. Merlin agreed at the speed of light. He remembered that Snape's assignment was a long and boring paper that was 1 foot long. It was a good deal not to write this assignment. Setting up the crucible, Merlin recalled the process of making the fireproof potion in his mind. Grind the fire crab carapace into powder, stir clockwise after adding it, and apply the fireproof spell. After it turns light red, immediately add 3 drops of lava snail mucus. Moonlight grass is used to increase the body temperature. 1/10 of an ounce of dragon blood crystals should also be added in the middle. Finally, cast a spell to purify the potion. After a series of operations, half an inch of red paste was left in the crucible. Merlin had 5 more tubes of red potion in his hand. He unscrewed a tube of fireproof potion and drank it with his head tilted back. Professor, you can set the fire. The other young wizards were stunned. They heard from the senior students that potions were very complicated. Snape would deliberately humiliate the young wizards who couldn't do well. Even the young wizards who liked potions didn't like this course, and would go to the pharmacy to learn later. But looking at Merlin, it was obviously very easy. As a young wizard in the Muggle world, he could finish it so quickly without any contact with potions. But, can this potion really prevent fire? On the podium, Snape showed a complicated expression in his eyes, and then quickly turned indifferent. No need to try, this color and smell are the most standard fire retardant. Passed, Hufflepuff gets 50 extra points. Also, you don't need to come to my class anymore. You can leave now. Ah! Merlin was a little surprised. He clearly felt that Snape had other ideas. He thought he was going to do something else, but he didn't expect to let him go just like that. However, the danger foreknowledge didn't feel any hints, so it should be fine. Merlin simply packed up and left the potions classroom. It just so happened that he had other things to deal with. When he left, the Badgers all gave him a thumbs up under the table, winking and laughing. The Slytherins all had constipated expressions. Merlin was refreshed and returned to the stairs just now. There was indeed residual paint on the ground, even on the Lady of Dragon Blood grass and the surrounding picture frames. A hunched man in a grey smock was cleaning with a mop and a rag. A big orange cat with pointed ears was lying on the railing next to it, shaking its tail. Noticing Merlin coming over, it looked up and meowed to remind the man that someone was coming. These unlucky little wizards! They made a mess here again. The hooded man muttered and turned his head, and saw surprise in Emmeline's eyes. Look who I caught! Merlin Handel from Hufflepuff. You're skipping classes too? I think I should ask you to have a good talk with Professor Sprout. Filch put down the rag and mop and stood up. The big orange cat jumped onto his shoulder and meowed, its amber eyes also staring at Merlin, as if it was going to pounce on him in the next second. Mr. Filch, it was Professor Snape who let me out. If you don't believe me, you can go ask him. Also, I'm here to help you deal with this place. Merlin took out his wand and waved it gently. Clean it up. The remaining paint on the ground and the frame disappeared instantly. Why, are you helping me? Filch was suddenly stunned. Chapter 27. Filch's face was full of disbelief. In all his years at Hogwarts, he had only seen little wizards who made troubles. This was the first time that a little wizard would take the initiative to help him clean up these things. Merlin shrugged. When he first read the book, he thought Filch was hateful. But later he gradually understood Filch's situation and felt that he was really a pitiful man. Living in a magical world, but unable to touch the mysteries of magic. The more he loved Hogwarts, the more he envied those little wizards who could learn magic. So he hated those little wizards who liked to play pranks, and thought they were wasting their talents and time. That's how love turns to hate. However, Merlin felt that his approach also had a big problem. Corporal punishment of little wizards will not change anything except increasing the hatred of little wizards towards him. So he decided to change Filch's concept. It just so happened that he also needed a squib experimental subject to study how to inspire ordinary people to master magical abilities. If successful, it would definitely greatly transform the wizarding world, and the reward would definitely not be low. Lynn did not answer Filch's question, but asked another question. Mr. Filch, do you want to learn magic? You, what did you say? I say, Mr. Filch, do you want to learn magic? Enough. Mr. Merlin, don't tease me with this kind of thing. You must know that I am a squib. Squibs, can't learn magic. Filch said this word by word, very forcefully. Merlin blinked. Mr. Filch, there is a saying in the Muggle world that where there is a will, there is a way. A squib is just a wizard who can't mobilize his magic power, not that he can't cast spells. You have advantages over many Muggles, why not try to learn magic? Trying to learn. Filch's throat seemed to be stuck. After a while, he confirmed that Merlin was really asking sincerely, then he pulled him to the side. He was a little embarrassed to speak. Mr. Merlin, to be honest with you, I have signed up for courses such as Squib Magic Crash Course, Learn to Cast Magic in 21 Days, and Master's Magic Introductory Course. But they just give you some tutorials after you pay. Over the years, I haven't learned even one magic trick. I've given up. You were born a wizard, don't understand this. Magic is innate in the blood, not something you can learn. Even if I hold a magic wand and use the same standard spells, gestures, and emotions as them, I can't release even a little magic. Mr. Merlin, thank you for your kindness, but I really can't learn magic. Merlin shook his head. Mr. Filch, you know I'm an alchemist, right? Yes, so what? Merlin smiled slightly. Since I am a Muggle born, I have always wondered why Muggle can't cast magic. But there are wizards all around, so it's hard to study. The Ministry of Magic also restricted me from conducting research with Muggles, so I was unable to find a qualified research subject. If you can let me study the abnormalities of magic in wizards and ordinary people, maybe I can solve this problem. Really, really? Filch said with some anticipation. I will study it, but I am not sure how long it will take to produce results. After all, I am just a freshman. Merlin said seriously. But I will do my best to research this issue. Thank you so much, Mr. Merlin. I just don't know what to say, you are so kind and so Hufflepuff. It would be great if other little wizards could be like you. Filch's voice was trembling with excitement, and he raised his sleeves to wipe his tears. As the gatekeeper of Hogwarts, not knowing magic has always been a concern for him. But he couldn't tell anyone about it except Mrs. Norris. He was cheated when buying a course. The little wizard hated him. The professors only said that squibs could not learn magic. He thought he would be isolated from magic in his life, but he didn't expect that there would be a little wizard who believed in him, encouraged him, and said he would help him solve the problem. Even if it was just a white lie. It was also a warm light he gained at Hogwarts. He even felt that there was a new expectation in life. Praise Merlin! Mr. Merlin, you are so Hufflepuff! Filch said excitedly. Merlin stood up straight and was almost as tall as Filch, who was bending over. He looked into Filch's eyes. However, Mr. Filch, you also need to change your attitude towards students. They are at a lively age, so it's normal for them to like to play a little. You punish them only because it's difficult to clean up the mess they make, right? Yes. Filch nodded vigorously, and felt that Merlin understood him too well. As a squib, he was completely unable to use cleaning magic. Facing the traces left by the various magic props of the little wizards, he could only physically remove them bit by bit. He often did this all day long, and was too tired to stand up after work. That's why he used punishment to reduce the number of mistakes made by the little wizards. Unfortunately, the more he punished the little wizards, the more excited they became, and even competed with him in wits and courage. Thinking of this, Filch even began to shed tears. Really, Mr. Merlin, there has never been a little wizard who understands me as well as you do. They all think I'm deliberately making things difficult for them, but I actually want to be a good person. Then I have a solution. Merlin smiled mysteriously. Do you want to regain the favor of the little wizard? Of course. I dream about it. That's easy, just do what I say, and I guarantee it will work soon. Merlin lowered his voice and said a few words. Is that all right? Filch said, eyes wide open in disbelief. It won't take much time to try. You can go talk to Peeves first. That experiment where the squib learned magic. I may have something to do in the next 2 days. I will send you a letter via owl after I finish my work and start school. Okay, Mr. Merlin, I'll go find Peeves right away. Filch happily disappeared from the stairs carrying his things. When he disappeared at the end of the stairs, the dragon blood grass witch came back from another picture frame. Oh, praise Merlin, you actually fixed the frame for me, what a helpful Hufflepuff you are. Don't say that, ma'am, I'll be embarrassed. And you also told me the changing pattern of the stairs, I haven't thanked you yet. But I'm more curious about how you came up with the idea of helping Filch. I've been in the castle for so many years and I've never seen a little wizard like you. Maybe I want to see a different magic world. Merlin smiled and responded. The dragon blood grass witch was silent for a moment and nodded seriously. Indeed, if all little wizards were like you, the future of the wizarding world would definitely be different. Well, as your senior, I can do you the most good by not reporting you for skipping classes, but you can't let this delay my nap. I'm going to start my beauty sleep, Merlin, be careful not to be seen by the professors. Without waiting for Merlin to speak, the dragon blood grass witch turned around and walked into the hut to rest. I really didn't skip class. Merlin's unspoken words slowly dissipated in the air. Forget it, let's get down to business first. Merlin first went to find some wooden boards, wrote the pattern of the stairs changes, and fixed them next to the first step of the stairs. Then he cast a conspicuous spell and a permanent fixation spell. In this way, the young wizards coming and going can immediately notice the pattern of the stairs changes and where the stairs lead to. It may not be useful for most old students. At least it can prevent new young wizards and old students with poor directions from getting lost. After doing all this, Merlin did not receive any prompts about transforming Hogwarts. It seems that doing the same thing 2 or 3 times to get more benefits will not work, so we still have to look forward to Filch's progress. Just as I was thinking about it, a new prompt popped up in front of me. Host transformation magic world detected. Renovation scope, small, rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the talent, magic space. The host can summon a magic space of 1000 square meters at any time. Currently it can only be used to store items. More functions can be obtained after upgrading. Chapter 28. Success. It seems that the method I gave Filch was good, and it was approved so easily. Looking at the reward content again, Merlin couldn't stop being excited. Space is here. So cool. This is better than the rewards he got before. After all, the means of hiding things and keeping secrets in the magic world are too backward. Either physical locks or magic locks. Physical locks have the magic spell of Aloho open. Magic locks can also be traced, and they are completely defenseless in front of wizards with better alchemy skills. Gringotts, which is said to be the most stringent lock used by ordinary wizards, is at most a biological lock. Identity authentication of dragons and goblins. But even Voldemort's little brother can easily break in and steal things, and even 7th year Hogwarts students can break in. It can only be said that it is also a big mess. So Merlin has been worried that his things will be lost or stolen. But the difficulty of the traceless extension spell is a bit high, and he really can't do it himself now. He can only continue to use the wallet given by Dumbledore and carry it with him all the time. Now that I have space, I don't have to worry about it. Merlin thought for a moment and quickly went to the 8th floor of the castle, opposite the tapestry where the troll beat Barnabas with his stick. This is the most magical place in the Harry Potter world. Anyone who thinks of the place they need in their mind and repeats it 3 times will have a door appear on the wall, and they will go into the place they need. A room that no one knows about. Emmeline repeated in a low voice. Not long after, a door opened on the wall. Emmeline pushed the door open and entered. Inside was an empty room. He did not waste a second and summoned the space directly. His body suddenly became lighter, as if he had entered a huge empty room out of thin air. With a thought, the things on his body appeared on the floor of the room. He opened the dragon skin purse again, poured out the things inside and began to arrange them according to his wishes. Soon, he sorted out several categories. Galleons, animal materials, plant materials, metal materials, daily necessities. With a thought, the space was put away. After releasing it again, the things were still intact in the original place. He tried to take the items and store them again. After becoming proficient, he no longer needed to open the space. The operation can be completed with just thought. Merlin breathed a sigh of relief. With this space, some of his secrets and treasures can be well preserved. Looking at the time, the Badgers should have just finished their first class. Merlin didn't know what to do for a moment. How about going to find Hagrid to have a chat and grab some materials from the Forbidden Forest? Hagrid patrols the Forbidden Forest every now and then, and the materials dropped by magical animals and plants are all waste picked up from the ground for him to recycle. If I remember correctly, he even has a blanket woven with unicorn hair. I don't know how Ollivander felt when he saw that his hard-to-find things could only be used as sofa cushions in Hagrid's place. But when Merlin walked out of the room of requirement, a prompt suddenly popped up in front of him. The relics of the 4 giants are detected near the host. Merlin was dumbfounded. What's going on? There were none when he just entered, so why is there this prompt when he leaves? There are relics left by the 4 giants within a 5-meter range? He originally wanted to find Dumbledore to get the Sorting Hat back, but he didn't expect to win the prize in advance. The talent marking must be correct, so the only problem left is where the relics are. It can't be this room of requirement, right? Hiss. Merlin's eyes moved when he thought of this. Who said that relics can only be objects? Of course, houses can also be relics. He remembered that the Marauder's map could not record the location of the room of requirement and the people who entered it. And even Dumbledore didn't know the origin of this room of requirement. If Dumbledore didn't lie, then at least it means that the person who left the room of requirement has a higher level of magic than him. The celebrities in the history of Hogwarts who can reach this level can be counted on one hand, and the 4 giants who originally established the school have to be counted. Thinking of this, Emolyn has an 80% chance of being sure that the room of requirement is the relic left by the 4 giants. But how to collect it? The system only says that there will be rewards after collecting, but it does not say what counts as collecting. Seeing that punching in is collecting, and owning is also collecting. You can't just live in it yourself to count, hey? Emolyn was stunned. How could he forget that the simplest function of a house is to live in it? According to the Chinese concept, only when you live in it, you feel at home. So, give me a room that feels like home. Give me a room that feels like home. Give me a room that feels like home. Emolyn silently repeated this 3 times, walking back and forth in front of the wall. Suddenly, a door opened on the wall. It was completely different from the wooden door before, but it looked like a security door. There was a key in the door. Emolyn unlocked the door and pushed the door open. As expected, he saw the home that he was most familiar with. Before he could enjoy it, a system prompt popped up in front of him. Congratulations to the host for collecting the relics of the 4 giants. The control of Hogwarts has increased by 1/12. Talent, Relic Marking Upgrade. Relic Marking: when the 4 giants' relics appear within a 10-meter radius of the host, the perception will be triggered. Please continue to work hard to improve your collection and take control of Hogwarts as soon as possible. After 2 hints, Merlin also clarified several pieces of information. First, there are not many relics left by the 4 giants, only 12 pieces, and he happens to know the whereabouts of several of them. This is not difficult to find. Second, with this key, he doesn't have to go out again, but can change the layout of the room of requirement in the house. It's still very convenient. In this case, Merlin simply turned the room of requirement into the room where Voldemort hid the Ravenclaw diadem. This is one of the relics he knows, and it happens to be in the room of requirement. The sooner you get it, the sooner you feel at ease. The thought flashed through his mind. The layout around him changed instantly. The room was full of all kinds of sundries. Merlin knew that this was the place where the little wizards of the past used to store their secret items. However, because of the special nature of the room of requirement, it was grouped together. In the most inconspicuous corner lay a dusty sculpture, which was a plaster statue of Rowena Ravenclaw herself. Above his head was a replica of the Ravenclaw diadem. But Merlin knew that the real golden crown was inside the plaster statue. To show respect, he did not smash the plaster statue directly, but took out his wand. The golden crown is flying. Bang! Instantly, the plaster exploded with a sound. A crown inlaid with gems flew out from the crack of the plaster statue and landed in Merlin's hand. The moment he got it, Merlin realized that it was the same as when the Sorting Hat was restless. There were restless soul fragments inside. But he didn't know whether it was only Voldemort's or the Big Four's as well. Merlin didn't have time to study the crown now. He directly cast Absolute to seal the magic fluctuations on it and put it back to his own space. The system popped up a prompt that the collection was successful. The marked range was increased again, and it could cover a range of 20 meters around. Very good. After confirming the success, Merlin opened the door and returned to the 8th floor of the castle. He hummed a song and went to the principal's office, ready to get another one. Oh, no, it is very likely to be the relics of the other 2 Big Four. Moreover, thinking that he might see Dumbledore's shocked expression later, Merlin couldn't wait. Chapter 29. Soon, he stood in front of a huge griffin statue on the 3rd floor. Ice. As soon as he said this, Emolyn realized that he probably couldn't know the password to open the door, so he quickly changed his tone. Hello, can you tell the principal that I have something important but not urgent to ask him? After the words fell, the statue did not respond. Merlin looked at the statue again, and resolutely pulled out his wand and began to tickle the gap between the feathers at the griffin's belly. Ha ha ha, stop, stop now. The griffin statue suddenly shook into a ball, laughing until its wings spread out. Emolyn was unmoved and continued to tickle. There was a crackling sound of joints shaking from the statue, but it still did not move. Enough, Mr. Merlin, let my lovely statue guard go. Suddenly, Dumbledore's voice sounded from the corridor. The password is iced lemonade, you can come in. Squeak. Following Dumbledore's voice, the statue suddenly retracted its wings and turned into a real statue, with a metallic luster all over its body. If Merlin hadn't withdrawn his hand quickly, even his wand would have been stuck in it. Gargoyle. Merlin then realized that the statue in front of him was not just a statue or a creature, but a real high-level alchemical product. Gargoyles are made from the corpses of magical animals, and can retain the strength and some thoughts of the animals when they were alive. Before hearing the command, they will act in the form of the animals when they were alive and do things according to the master's instructions. After hearing the command, they will turn into a statue. Most suitable for guarding work. Can you recognize Griffin? At the stairs. Dumbledore was obviously surprised when he heard Merlin's voice. This Griffin statue has been placed in Hogwarts for thousands of years. Most people who have seen it know that it is some kind of magic statue. Only a very small number of people recognize that it is a gargoyle. However, these very few people are well-known figures in the magic world. For example, Nicholas Flamel, members of the Wizengamot, senior Aurors, etc. As a high-level alchemical product that is almost lost. This is the first time that a young wizard has called out Griffin's name. After all, I can feel the magical aura on it. The real Griffin will not be so obedient. Besides, I am also an alchemist. Emmeline stood up straight and said seriously. Indeed, there are not many young wizards with such great magical talent and alchemy level. Dumbledore nodded slightly and looked into Merlin's eyes. So what does our little alchemist want to talk to me about? You should still be in class at this time, right? Professor Snape exempted me from this year's classes and homework because of my performance. Merlin briefly explained what happened in the potion classroom just now. Very good, this is the first time I have seen a little wizard who can make Severus embarrassed. No, Professor, this is not a humiliation, but a deserved reward for good performance. Really? Dumbledore looked deep in his eyes and pretended to remind. If Severus didn't say he passed the exam, Mr. Merlin, you should not be too relaxed. Merlin was stunned for a moment, thinking carefully about what Snape said, and secretly cursed him for being treacherous. He almost thought that he didn't even have to take the exam. Fortunately, Dumbledore reminded him. He must find a chance to ask clearly how the exam is calculated. Okay, now can you explain your purpose? Mr. Emmeline. Actually, I'm not here for you, sir. I'm here for the Sorting Hat. Sorting Hat? Dumbledore was stunned and surprised. He had been in school for decades, but this was the first time he heard of a young wizard coming to see the Sorting Hat. The only reason he could think of was changing the school. Mr. Merlin, even if you want to change your house now, it has nothing to do with the Sorting Hat. Dumbledore said seriously. I know, Professor, I'm not here to change colleges. Emmeline said politely. That is. In fact, during the Sorting Hat wanted me to refurbish it. Merlin told him what the Sorting Hat asked him to do. Dumbledore suddenly realized. I once offered to help it renovate, but it refused. I thought it didn't like it, but it didn't like me. Professor, you are joking. It just doesn't like pink. Merlin. Are you here? As they were talking, the familiar sound of the Sorting Hat rang out, and there was also a sound of slapping something. Merlin just stepped onto the last step of the spiral staircase and saw the Sorting Hat placed on the corner of Dumbledore's desk. Merlin, you're finally here. I thought you weren't coming. The Sorting Hat was so excited that it almost jumped off the table. Hey, Dumbledore, I want Merlin to help me with the renovation, you can't refuse, this is what you promised me. If you find someone willing to help, agree. Of course. You can leave with Mr. Merlin, but your idea may not come true. Why? Didn't Gryffindor tell you? He left a complicated magic and alchemical array on you to allow you to perform a shallow level of legilimency. In order to redesign your image, you must keep this magic circle intact and then transfer it to the new material. Before I said I would change it for you, I was trying to find someone to help, but he couldn't do it alone, and it happened that his wife preferred pink. Dumbledore sighed. So, I'm sorry, your idea may not be realized by any little wizard in Hogwarts. Maybe Mr. Merlin can do it in the future, but I'm afraid he can't do it now. The Sorting Hat looked dazed. It couldn't accept this result. Merlin was not surprised at all, but said seriously. Professor, you can actually just say it was Nicole Levitra. I know it was him. That would be more convenient. Dumbledore nodded. Anyway, Nico and I have seen the formation on the Sorting Hat, which uses some ancient rune magic, and it seems that there are some special existences. Horcrux. Merlin said calmly. Dumbledore stared at Merlin in surprise, even a little worried. How do you know about Horcruxes? This is not something a wizard your age should know. When I was reading in Flourish and Blots, I happened to see a book mentioning this, so I went to look up the information. Honestly, it's a wicked magic. In addition, when I was in the branch, I heard some other voices. What sound? Dumbledore asked. He didn't even notice that he was relieved subconsciously after hearing Merlin think the Horcruxes were evil. Merlin said what Slytherin had said to deceive him. By the way, he said that collecting the relics of the four giants would give him Hogwarts. This was also the result he had considered. From what he knew, Dumbledore didn't really care who Hogwarts belonged to, he just wanted to kill Voldemort. If the school could be controlled by Hogwarts students, he would probably be happier than those directors. Moreover, Merlin believed that Dumbledore now would not care about anything else. One Dark Lord was enough to give him a headache. If there was one more Horcrux of Slytherin, he would probably not be able to sleep. In addition, if the real enemy of the entire wizarding world could be changed, this should be a huge change, right? I'm afraid Dumbledore would not have thought that the mastermind behind everything would be Salazar Slytherin, one of the four giants of Hogwarts. Moreover, if he knew about the Horcruxes, he might be able to figure out how Voldemort would be resurrected in advance. Now it depends on whether his words can change his mind. Chapter 30. Dumbledore lowered his head and began to ponder. After a long time, he raised his head again. Mr. Merlin, this is a very important matter. Do you know what you are talking about? Of course, Professor, if you don't believe me, you can ask the Sorting Hat. It heard it too. Really? Sorting Hat? Dumbledore asked seriously. Yes, Dumbledore, I did hear Slytherin's voice, I did. You sure? Yes. Absolutely. I have met him countless times, it is impossible to forget his voice. Okay, I understand. Dumbledore nodded, tapping his fingertips on the table. From Merlin's perspective, Dumbledore seemed to be sitting in a daze. But he had used a kind of advanced magic, and without the help of the Pensieve, he began to check his long-forgotten memories. From the time he came into contact with the boy named Tom Riddle in the Wu orphanage more than 50 years ago, to his admission to school, study, graduation, and all the memories after that. No wonder it's like this. He would become what he is now and become obsessed with collecting relics of the Big Four. Inherit Slytherin's will, control Hogwarts, and recruit pure-blood wizards. He always wondered what happened to turn Tom into Voldemort, but he couldn't find any trace. It would make sense if it was Salazar Slytherin behind the scenes. After all, he was the founder of Hogwarts and one of the four giants. It was effortless to bewitch a young, talented, and ambitious little wizard. No wonder he became so powerful. After everything was connected, Dumbledore opened his eyes, and his eyes became exceptionally bright. Mr. Merlin, thank you for telling me this. I need to meet a few people to confirm the situation. If you don't mind, you can go back to class first, or take a rest. You can also take the Sorting Hat with you. No problem, Professor. Merlin took the Sorting Hat and stood up. As he was about to go down the stairs, he suddenly thought of something. By the way, Professor, aren't you worried that I will do the same thing as him after I take control of Hogwarts? Mr. Merlin, when you told me this secret, I believed that you would not become like this, right? Dumbledore blinked. Well, Professor, you are right, I really don't have this idea, but after I get Hogwarts, maybe I will make some changes. For example, let the Ministry of Magic pay my rent, so I won't be short of money. Merlin said seriously. Ahem. Dumbledore spit out a mouthful of iced lemon juice, and for a moment he couldn't tell whether it was a real thought or a joke. Although Hogwarts now has a school director. However, since the establishment of the school, it has never been heard that Hogwarts needs to pay rent. What if the rent is too expensive, will Hogwarts go bankrupt? Dumbledore's face changed. Haha, Professor, I'm just kidding. Merlin couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect that the greatest white wizard in the world would have a headache because of rent. It's really interesting. Don't worry, Professor. Even if I accept it, the amount won't be much. I just want to change the current situation. After all, the school can't always be under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Magic, right? Merlin stood up and left the principal's office with the Sorting Hat. He also turned off the reminder of the collection degree of 3/12. The range of the relic marking was increased to 40 meters, and it could even detect magic items within the range. It was perfect. From Dumbledore's performance, we knew that he probably believed what he said. But he still had to find someone to confirm it. It was either Grindelwald, who was imprisoned in Nougamund, or Nicholas Flamel, who was far away in France. He believed that his name would also reach their ears. This was also part of his plan. It was too slow to influence ordinary wizards by himself, and commercial influence was enough. The system still cared about the key figures in the magic world. It depended on Dumbledore's strength. It would be best if these famous people were familiar with him before he became famous, so that it would be much easier to change. I don't know how much reward there would be for changing this result. Merlin couldn't help but look forward to it. After Merlin left, Dumbledore stared at the place where he disappeared, recalling the words he left. After a while, he shook his head in silence, waved his hand and disappeared from the school. I say, Merlin, what you said today really scared me. The Sorting Hat whispered on Merlin's shoulder, its raised brim covering the wrinkles on the hat. Aren't you afraid that this secret will be leaked? What else? Emmeline shrugged. Do you expect me to collect so many relics by myself? It's not impossible. Voldemort has collected several of them. Aren't you afraid to call his name? Merlin was very curious. He clearly heard the Sorting Hat say Voldemort just now. He didn't expect that the hat was so brave that it dared to call a name that even Professor McGonagall didn't dare to call. What am I afraid of? I'm not a wizard. If he opens a school, doesn't he still need to divide it into different houses? Hearing this, Emmeline felt that his previous thoughts seemed a little unreliable. The IQ of this hat is about the same as that of a goblin. However, Voldemort only wanted pure bloods when he established a school. How many houses do you think he needed? Did he also need a sorting hat? Swish! The Sorting Hat shuddered, shaking off a layer of skin flakes, and shrank back tightly, making a trembling and rubbing sound. You didn't hear anything just now, got it? What a coward! Merlin shook his head, but still put away the Sorting Hat, stuffed it into his robes and walked towards the hall. Although Dumbledore agreed to let him take it away, it was still a bit high profile to hold the Sorting Hat and walk past other little wizards. Let's talk about it after the renovation. When Merlin walked near the hall, he heard from a distance that some little wizards gathered together to discuss something. Look, what does Filch mean by this? Did he change his gender? Did he allow us to use props in the castle? Are there some things that were not allowed before but are now allowed? No, it's in the instructions. It can only be used here and must be cleaned up after use. Does he want to go fishing? Probably not, it has Professor Dumbledore's signature on it. So. The little wizards were silent for a few seconds, then suddenly burst into shouting. Will we have a dedicated entertainment venue for props in the future? For the first time, Filch didn't seem that annoying to me. Praise Merlin! This is definitely the greatest change to Hogwarts this century. In order to facilitate students of all grades to experiment with spells and alchemical props, Mr. Filch specially applied to set up a prop duel field on the right side of the hall corridor. Students of all grades can use magic items or non-offensive magic to duel in this area, but they must return to their original state after use. If you need to test alchemical props and magic toys, please contact Mr. Filch, and he will find Peeves as a challenge object. Attached is a list of usable magic props. Merlin walked by and saw a notice board erected at the side of the hall and nodded with satisfaction. It seems that Filch not only listened to advice, but also did better. Chapter 31. This prop duel field was his idea for Filch. Anyway, the little wizards used magic props in the corridors to attack people and make fun of people. Instead of running around the world, it is better to agree on a place to fight. They can also use magic props that they couldn't use before. The little wizards have no resistance at all. Especially challenging Peeves, the little wizards are very excited. Peeves is a special ghost formed by the mischievous ideas of all the little wizards who go to school at Hogwarts. It can touch real objects and even use magic props. Little wizards are often late or lost because of Peeves' tricks. But due to the restriction that magic props cannot be used in the school corridors, many little wizards have no way to take revenge. Now there is a chance to challenge Peeves openly, and there will definitely be many people participating. When Merlin guessed that someone was going to go, George and Fred couldn't bear it anymore and stepped forward to discuss challenging Peeves. They have always wanted to compete with Peeves head-on. They didn't have the opportunity before due to school rules. Now they take the opportunity to apply to Filch immediately. Anyway, with so many people watching, Filch can't do anything to them. If they really dare to punish them, they will go to Professor Dumbledore to reason. Unexpectedly, when they found Filch, Filch reversed his previous attitude and took back the suitcase with their names on it from the office. Of course, I remember you. These are the props you left behind. I believe you can beat Peeves. Come on. The twins couldn't hold back any longer. They went back and explained the situation to the others. For a moment, no one in the crowd even noticed Peeves' appearance. They were all discussing Filch's transformation. Merlin was also interested in watching the twins fight Peeves. He was mainly curious about what was confiscated from them. Peeves couldn't help but fly down from the sky. He was wearing a funny hat and holding a huge cloth bag in his hand. Oh! Are you two going to challenge me for the title of the biggest troublemaker in Hogwarts? Filch said, holding his broom and looking at it. Peeves, don't forget what Professor Dumbledore said, you are not allowed to hurt the little wizards. Of course. I'm just kidding, I'm not trying to sabotage you. Okay, come on, I'm in a hurry to see if there's any bread left today. The twins looked at each other and quickly took things out of the boxes they had confiscated before. Merlin looked at what they took out and finally understood where the twins had spent their money before. There were hundreds of magic props. Just looking at the appearance, there were exploding fireworks, stinky fart eggs, shape-shifting candies, marking smoke, all of which were things that Filch had banned from use before. And Peeves also took out similar props from the bag. Is that all? I have some too. The twins were dumbfounded. They could only use these props on the ground, while Peeves was in the sky, so their status was naturally unequal. But the challenge had already begun, and they had no choice but to run. They looked at each other, and immediately separated to distract Peeves' attention, and began to throw props at him in turn. Peeves saw the props flying towards him, and flew up to avoid them with a strange smile. Ah! Is this all you have? Peeves opened his pocket, and without using any magic, more than a dozen items flew out of his pocket. It's my turn now. Peeves laughed and flew from one end of the challenge field to the other, dropping more than a dozen props from the air. Instantly, the challenge field was filled with smoke and smells, and there were crackling fireworks. The young wizards who were watching dodged one after another. The senior wizards immediately drew out their wands and cast protective spells, fearing that they would be affected. Give up! We give up! The twins' voices came from the smoke along with screams. The surrounding wizards booed. 2 people challenged Peeves and lost so quickly. The smoke clears. A familiar voice sounded. McGonagall dragged her green cloak and slowly walked down the stairs, staring at everything in front of her. The little wizards around were too scared to speak. Their behavior violated several school rules at once, and they really didn't know how many points they would be deducted. Especially George and Fred, their faces turned black. They were afraid that Professor McGonagall would send a letter to their families. They would definitely not have a good ending. But what they didn't expect was that after McGonagall cleaned up the place, she actually helped them to return to their previous appearance. Clean it up. McGonagall put away her wand and looked at Peeves. Peeves, if you can help clear the things on the field after the little wizard admits defeat, they will definitely be happier. Of course, Professor. Seeing Professor McGonagall, Peeves felt a little flustered by the weird ideas of the little wizards. He quickly agreed. Professor, I'm leaving now. If you need me, just ask Filch to call me. Peeves turned and ran away with his bag. When the twins weren't paying attention, he also took away an open suitcase on the ground. You too. After dealing with Peeves, Mag looked at the twins again. Professor, we are following the notice and have not violated any school rules. Fred and George were nervous and argued in a low voice. Of course, I didn't say you violated school rules. I'm disappointed that you two can't defeat Peeves with just your props. It seems that what Mr. Merlin said is right. The young wizards do need some magic training. You must come here every Wednesday to challenge Peeves. When you beat it, the training will end. What? The twins stared, unable to believe what they heard. Wasn't this Mr. Filch's suggestion? Why is it Merlin again? Professor, but Peeves has so many gadgets, how can we win? This is your business, Mr. Weasley. If you don't want, I can write to Molly. Oh no. Professor, please don't, we promise you. The twins lowered their heads, feeling something was wrong. Using magic props in the school corridor was their favorite thing to do secretly. Now they could challenge it under the Emperor's order, so why were they not happy at all? Merlin! What do you mean by this idea? Why set up a challenge area in the corridor? The two of them were confused and noticed Merlin in the crowd. They hurriedly surrounded Merlin and asked him to explain to them. Merlin had to tell them the reason he and Filch had given him. Because magic is prohibited in the school corridors, many young wizards do not have combat instincts and experience, but they have not yet learned enough combat spells. If a challenge area is opened and they are allowed to use magic props to challenge, it will help improve their reaction ability, spell control, and combat thinking. He believed that after experiencing the giant squid attack, Dumbledore and his team would definitely approve this plan. That's it. The twins looked at each other and thought it made sense. But they still couldn't understand why they couldn't be happy. Maybe it's because this is an assignment from the professor, not the happiness you originally wanted. Emmeline analyzed. The twins looked at each other and slapped their thighs. That's right. Mullen, you are so right, we just feel bored because it is homework. So, do you have any way to get Professor McGonagall to exempt us from this challenge? You are so capable, there must be a way, right? The twins looked at Emmeline expectantly. Chapter 32. Actually, I do have a solution. What? Anyway, Professor McGonagall only wants you to challenge Peeves, so it's fine if you win. Gemini, you look like you're teasing me. Mullen, this is complete nonsense. If we can defeat Peeves, do we still need to worry about it? Yes, if you have never met Peeves, you don't know how difficult he is to deal with. Can it be more difficult to deal with than a giant squid? Emmeline said indifferently. Merlin, not every wizard is as powerful as you, able to kill a giant squid when you enter the first grade. No, I didn't kill him, I just used a freezing spell, it was Professor Dumbledore who killed him. Oh, is there any difference? Anyway, that is not something that an ordinary little wizard can do. Peeves has been in school for so many years, who can beat him? The twins looked so resentful that they could kill people. Merlin just pretended not to see it. I see that Peeves used the same magic props that you have used, right? That's right. Speaking of this, the twins complained again. Every time we brought something in before, Filch would take it away. Peeves could sneak into Filch's office and steal the props. It can use these things better than we do. There is only one way. Emmeline said seriously. What is the solution? The twins urged Emmeline to speak quickly. Just research some new magic items and defeat it before it gets familiar with them. Anyway, you have glasses, you can see his magic weakness, then just attack fiercely. This is too difficult. It's too expensive. We spent a summer researching and spent several galleons, but we only came up with a candy that can burn through the tongue. After tricking Ron into trying the food, he almost got his legs broken. Merlin's mouth twitched, and he understood Ron's emotions. He also felt that the Weasley family was really united. If it were ordinary brothers, they would not turn against each other and become enemies. This invention is totally useless. There is no way to open a joke products store. The twins complained. Merlin had a different opinion. Being able to develop such a powerful candy in the first grade, they are worthy of being the twins who can rule Hogwarts with a joke shop. However, they are obviously in a misunderstanding. As long as there is an antidote, it doesn't matter if the props are a little tricky. Moreover, Merlin suddenly thought of the model of the previous company. His own business territory can be expanded from joke props. When it can radiate the entire European wizarding world. Transforming the magic world is probably just a matter of words. Thinking of this, Merlin simply took out his wallet. Since you want to open a joke products store, we can upgrade our previous cooperation. You help me sell my alchemy items, and the commission is still the same. Here are 1,000 galleons. I can invest in your store. Just give me 30% of the dividends. Mullen, you are definitely a good person. But this ratio is not acceptable. That. Before Merlin could finish his words, Fred clenched his fists. Too little. It must be 40%. Yes, we won't agree to anything less. You paid so much money, but you still get so little dividends. If people tell others, they will say that our Weasley family is bullying Muggle wizards. If you trust us, we won't let you suffer any loss. Just 40%, I will go back and ask someone, and then sign the magic contract. The twins said seriously. Hey! Emmeline couldn't believe it. He only used 1,000 galleons to buy 40% of the shares of the future Weasley's joke shop? It seemed that the profit was a bit too big, right? No, Merlin, it's not about the money. We discussed this with other people and they all thought we were crazy. Only you believed in us and were willing to give us money. Others come, 10,000 galleons we. Well, if there really is 10,000 galleons, we might consider it. The twins hugged each other and laughed before they finished their harsh words. Emmeline didn't bother to pay attention to the twins' sudden joke. Instead, he looked at the message that popped up in front of him. Host transformation magic world detected. Renovation extent, medium, rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the talent, super hearing. The host's hearing has been greatly improved, and when concentrating, it can obtain a hearing effect far beyond that of ordinary people. Emmeline was a little surprised. He thought the twins would give him some alchemical formula. Unexpectedly, it was a hearing talent. But thinking about the retractable ears they developed later, he felt that this was normal. All right, here is 1,000 galleons, keep them for now. When you have finished the contract, come find me in the lounge. I have something else to do, so I'll be leaving now. Merlin counted out 1,000 galleons and handed them to the twins. Looking at the remaining few hundred galleons, he secretly felt that money was really hard to spend. He finally made back more than 2,000 galleons from selling the glasses. After deducting the cost of purchasing magical biological materials and the investment in them, there was not much left. After a few days, the sales of the magic detection glasses will decrease, and making money will only be slower. But the new version cannot be launched immediately, lest the young wizards who just bought it will be disgusted. He also needs to find some new ways to make money. Merlin thought about ways to make money and went back to the dormitory and lay down on the bed. Hey! Merlin, have you forgotten me? Let me out now! The Sorting Hat shouted from Merlin's robe pocket. Oh, yes, and you too. Merlin turned over and took out the Sorting Hat from his robe. There were many people just now, so in order to avoid being too conspicuous, he took off the Sorting Hat in advance and hid it. He actually forgot about it all the way back. Phew, I finally got some fresh air. It was so dark inside, it was really tormenting. This is the first time I heard that a hat needs to be breathable. Emmeline rolled his eyes. Little wizards like you don't understand. Old guys like us like to bask lazily in the sun. The Sorting Hat rolled over and stretched out in the sun. It's more comfortable to stay with the little wizard. I haven't had a good night's sleep on the 8th floor. It's really uncomfortable. How could that be? Merlin was a little surprised. Are there a lot of people in Dumbledore's office? Of course. What do you think the people in the photos were doing when Dumbledore was not around? Merlin understood instantly. Dumbledore had to work during the day, and the old principals could not disturb him. At night, he would have a crazy confrontation. It seems that the magic world is still more powerful, which really proves the saying. Some people are not honest even if they are hung on the wall. Okay, Merlin, let me have a good sleep first, and we'll talk tomorrow if there's anything. The Sorting Hat curled itself up and prepared to go to sleep. But Merlin smiled slightly, grabbed him and gently shook him open. Come on, old man, have you forgotten our agreement? I need you for something now. Help me look at this thing. Merlin, you are a real dog. The Sorting Hat opened its eyes and yelled in rage. But the next second, it screamed like a ripped roof. What the fuck? Merlin's beard, pants, eyeballs, and brains. Where did you get these things? Chapter 33. Merlin took out the Ravenclaw crown and the key to the room of requirement from the space. The Sorting Hat raised its brim to cover the tip of the hat. His facial features were distorted to the point where they could not be seen. He stretched his body to check what was in front of him. After a while, he raised his head fiercely. Really? It's all true. Goose Girl. How on earth did you do that? I asked you to collect their relics, and you really did it. Well, what else? We Hufflepuffs are all about honesty and trustworthiness. We have agreed to this and we will definitely do it. It's just that it's a bit troublesome to find them. I only found a few of them, so it's a bit slow. Emmeline said seriously, holding back a smile. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The Sorting Hat turned its head in disbelief. Boy, seriously, if I hadn't sorted you into a house myself, I would have suspected that you were Slytherin himself. How could there be such a terrifying little wizard who could find 2 relics in just one day? You don't really want to charge rent for Hogwarts, do you? Why not? Merlin raised his eyebrows. What he said to Dumbledore was not a joke. Having read the original book, he naturally did not believe in the Ministry of Magic's ability to manage schools. It was fine when nothing happened normally. But if something really happened, just look at what happened when that pink frog was in charge. It was a disaster for students. Merlin originally planned to change this situation. At least he wanted to be able to manage independently from the Ministry of Magic. After learning from the Sorting Hat that he could control Hogwarts, his idea became even simpler. Take over Hogwarts, give it a lot of rewards, and let the Ministry of Magic suffer a setback. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. The Sorting Hat opened its mouth wide, and it took a long time to calm down. What a scary little wizard. But I like it. Seriously, if you really can control Hogwarts, you must open Salazar's Chamber of Secrets. I have always wondered what is in it. Hey! Emmeline was stunned. He didn't expect that this old man actually knew about the secret room. What's there to not know? Also, don't call me Old Hat, it feels weird. Okay, Old Hat, tell me. The Sorting Hat resisted in vain and had no choice but to tell what it knew. It turned out that when Slytherin and the other 3 had a dispute, the Sorting Hat was on Gryffindor's head and listened to the whole dispute. But I only know the secret room, I don't know where it is or what's inside. What's the difference between that and not knowing? Emmeline rolled his eyes. There is still a big difference. At least I know one thing. The Chamber of Secrets is also a relic of Slytherin and is his most important place for selecting heirs. Emmeline was now interested. This was something that was not mentioned in the original book, so he hurriedly asked him to explain the situation in detail. I don't know the details. The Sorting Hat shook its head. Didn't you hear Slytherin's conversation? What did he say? Now that the Sorting Hat was following him, Merlin was not worried about leaking the secret, so he repeated what Slytherin said to persuade him to go to Nugamund. I see. This old silver coin really has something to hide. The Sorting Hat slapped the bed sheet angrily. What's the meaning? No, Merlin, aren't you quite smart? Why are you so stupid now? How could he, who has been dead for hundreds of years, know about Nugamund? This means that he had bewitched other young wizards before, or it happened in the last few decades. He has definitely been keeping an eye on Hogwarts and still remembers the original plan. Oh, this one. Emmeline yawned calmly. Wait, what do you mean? Didn't you know just now? Slytherin left a Horcrux in the school that can bewitch people. How can you be so bland? Well. Emmeline clicked his tongue. He didn't know how to tell the Sorting Hat about this. He thought the Sorting Hat was surprised by something. If it was just this matter, he knew more than the Sorting Hat. Not only did he know who was bewitched, he even knew when it was bewitched. It's okay. There's no need to talk about this matter. Dumbledore knows what's going on. I have something else to do, you just stay here and rest. Merlin put the Sorting Hat away without saying anything and turned to go out. He didn't need to worry about Voldemort for the time being, Dumbledore must have noticed Quirrell's changes. He just needed to do his own thing with peace of mind. He now wanted to try to activate the Chamber of Secrets. If he could collect another relic, he would have almost got half of the relic. Rounding it off, half of Hogwarts would be his. This was much more important than anything else. On the 2nd floor of the castle, in the women's bathroom. When Merlin was about to go in, a ghost suddenly appeared in front of him. The little witch with twin ponytails, wearing a wizard robe and round glasses, stood with her hands on her hips and stared at Merlin. Hey, you bad boy, why are you in the ladies' room? Merlin secretly thought that he was unlucky. He never thought that he would meet Moaning Myrtle in broad daylight. You know, future Harry and his friends have been brewing polyjuice potion here for a month and have not met this person. I really don't know whether my luck is good or bad. But the problem now is not to lament my luck, but to find a reason to deceive Myrtle. Otherwise, with the social circle of ghosts. Before the afternoon, I will go from being the strongest first-year student in Hogwarts to a gentleman who peeks into the women's bathroom. With an idea, Merlin changed his expression to shock. Women's bathroom. Oh my god, I really didn't know this was the women's bathroom. The ghost just now clearly told me that this was the men's bathroom. Which ghost? Sure enough, after hearing the ghost, Myrtle's attention was immediately diverted. It's just a ghost wearing a top hat and looking very happy. He said his name is Sir Capybara. Sir Capybara? How dare it call itself that? Myrtle looked unhappy and disappeared from Merlin's sight. Bang! 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 After several loud noises, the doors of the women's bathroom all popped open, and a meter-high column of water gushed out of the toilet, leaving water stains and a damp smell all over the floor. At this time, Emmeline finally understood why no one would come to this bathroom. When you are using the toilet comfortably, and suddenly a column of water gushes out from below, anyone would probably want to kill someone. After a while, Myrtle finally stopped going crazy and returned to Emmeline, dripping with water all over her body. Sorry, Peeves always plays tricks on me and I get mad when I hear his name. It doesn't matter. After all, I was the first one to break into your home. Emmeline hesitated, but still used this word. After all, this little wizard was the only one killed by the basilisk, and it was really tragic. Home. Myrtle blinked and murmured. After a few seconds, she pursed her lips. You are right, this is indeed my home in Hogwarts. After saying that, he looked at Merlin again. I feel like you smell good. If you are free, can you come and chat with me? I want to make friends with you. Of course. Emmeline nodded. More friends mean more paths, nothing wrong with that. And he might have to trouble Myrtle in the future, such as when he was making polyjuice potion. Chapter 34. After saying goodbye to Myrtle, Emmeline didn't feel like checking the entrance to the secret room. Of course, the most important point is that he just tried to imagine that there was a snake across from him, but he couldn't speak snake language. He could only hear himself hissing and exhaling stupidly. After checking the language proficiency talent again, he found the biggest problem with this talent. What the hell is it that he can only be proficient in words but not pronunciation? Can he hear but not speak? Isn't this a mute? Because the vocalization structure of some languages is completely different from that of humans, it is easy to get hurt if you are not strong enough. The system pops up an explanation. All right. Merlin accepted this reason. After all, he had read the relevant introduction in the textbook, and it was indeed true. For example, the high-pitched pronunciation of the mermaid language that seemed to tear the throat could only be understood normally underwater. If it was on the ground, a few words would make the vocal cords scrapped. As for the dragon language, it was even more terrifying. Incorrect pronunciation might even damage the internal organs. It seems that I can only wait until later to upgrade this talent or wait until someday to trick Harry over. Anyway, the Chamber of Secrets will not be opened here. Even according to the plot, it will have to wait until next school starts for Ginny to open it. Merlin is not in a hurry to collect it now, it is the same to come another day. Thinking about things, he subconsciously climbed the stairs. After a muffled creak, the staircase separated from the corridor and began to move slowly. Merlin came to his senses and thought to himself that it was not good. He made the road sign himself, but he did not look at it. This was too outrageous. Looking at the direction of the staircase, Merlin suddenly calmed down. This staircase led to the library. Very good. After he knew about Salazar Slytherin's plan, he thought about taking time to go to the library to see if the four giants had left anything. Now is the perfect time to go and take a look, and there is no need to find another time. If the restricted book area is included, the Library of Hogwarts can be said to be the place with the largest collection of books in the British magic world. There should be the resources of the four giants. Merlin pushed open the door, and was greeted by the smell of old magic ink and complex magic fluctuations. But Merlin's face was full of excitement. He knew he had come to the right place. This is a feature of ancient and powerful magic books. The older and more powerful the magic book, the more special the materials used to record it. Some are even recorded on dragon skin with ancient magic patterns, emitting special magic fluctuations all the time. Over time, there will be such complex magic fluctuations. Madame Pants, the librarian of Hogwarts, was busy at the bookshelf not far away. Merlin went in to look for it himself. But he searched the entire ordinary area and did not see any useful information. A history of Hogwarts and the biography of the four giants are all things he memorized, and there is no more secret content at all. Could it be that Hogwarts doesn't have the information of the Big Four? That shouldn't be the case. Merlin always felt that something was not right. He thought about it and came up with a very outrageous answer. Dumbledore wouldn't put even these books in the restricted section, would he? Merlin hurried to find the librarian, Madame Pants, to confirm. Madame Pants was cleaning a bookshelf with monster books on it. She took off her dragonskin gloves and looked at Merlin suspiciously. That's right, Professor Dumbledore just asked me to move there. What are you looking for those materials for? What a fool! Merlin was speechless. In order to prevent another Voldemort from appearing, Dumbledore was being too cautious. But he still had to watch. Merlin could only use the excuse of the Sorting Hat being refurbished. Professor Dumbledore is going to refurbish the Sorting Hat and asked me to collect information to ensure that there will be no magic circles or other errors. If you don't believe me, you can ask Professor Dumbledore. Anyway, this is a true story, but it's not Gryffindor's information. Even if Dumbledore asks, there is a reason to explain. And Merlin believes that Madame Pants will not go to Dumbledore to verify such a thing. Sure enough. Madame Pants looked at him for a few times and then asked him to wait there. After a while, she took out a few books with heavy covers. The History of Hogwarts, the Salazar Slytherin Archives, Secret Hogwarts. These are not black magic books, so I can show you. But there is no approval slip. You must finish reading it here and return it to me. It takes 4 hours in total. Good luck. But I must remind you that many of these books are unofficial histories and cannot be taken seriously. Okay, I'll be careful to distinguish them. Thank you, Madame Pants. Merlin thanked her and found a place to look up the information. He understood what Madame Pants meant by unofficial history after just a few pages. It's no exaggeration to say that the best journalists of the Daily Prophet could only make up things at this level. Merlin even saw the chaotic emotional records of the Big Four in it. To put it simply, he loved her, but she loved her, she loved him, and he loved him. Unofficial history, whether it's history or not, I don't know, but it's really wild. Merlin resisted the urge to tear up the book and flipped through it quickly. Finally, he found some relatively credible content in the book. Salazar Slytherin, master of legilimency, uses a wand made of snaky wood and basilisk horn. He is a famous master of the dark arts, a supporter of the pure blood theory, a natural Parseltongue, and an expert in the breeding of magical animals. After leaving Hogwarts, the wand he left behind was stolen by Isolde Sayer and turned into a snaky wood tree at Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. After that, there were some relatively normal but unclear preferences and famous sayings. Merlin just glanced at them and treated them as nonsense. He didn't believe that Salazar Slytherin liked to eat chocolate frogs. Chocolate seemed to have not yet been introduced to Europe in that era, so where could he eat chocolate frogs? The book even said that Salazar Slytherin would find a little wizard to test the dark magic every day. This was even more outrageous. If Slytherin dared to do this, the other 3 giants would fight to the death to kill him. How could he be allowed to stay in the Chamber of Secrets? Because there was too much content like this, in less than an hour, Merlin had read all the information and went to find Madame Pants to return the book. So soon? Madame Pants raised her eyebrows. Are you really looking for information about the Sorting Hat? Of course. But I have a photographic memory, so I remember it clearly. Merlin picked up the quill pen beside him and sketched the original design of the Sorting Hat and some magic circle ideas on the blank parchment. Madame Pants then looked away and smiled. Not bad, I haven't seen such a diligent and hard-working little wizard for a long time. You can come to me next time you need to find a book. But you are not allowed to bring food and water into the library. Got it? Merlin nodded, said goodbye to Madame Pants and prepared to leave. Watching her continue to tidy up the bookshelf, he couldn't help but want to recommend the system of Flourish and Blot's bookstore to her. Maybe he could get another reward. But he wasn't very familiar with it yet, so he could wait until he was more familiar with it. When he turned around, a sweet voice suddenly came from his side. Hello, can you help me get that book? Chapter 35. Emolyn turned his head. A fresh scent of sweet osmanthus wafted in his face. Then a beautiful figure came into view. Long black hair, delicate face, matched with a short skirt shirt and a flowing wizard robe. The breath of tranquility and spring hit him. The features were too obvious, and Emolyn recognized at a glance that this was Chujong. The girls ranked in the top 3 in terms of appearance in the original book. Seeing her now, he can only say that the ranking is true, and it really suits his aesthetic taste, giving him a feeling of first love. Chujong looked at Emolyn and was also a little surprised. She didn't expect to catch such a handsome little wizard casually. Which one? Emolin asked. It's the book The Curse of the Sleeping Fairy. Chu Zhang pointed to an old book on the top of the bookshelf that had its cover opened and seemed to be yawning. I have cast a sobering spell on it, but I can't get it off. Chu Zhang said awkwardly. Let me see. Emolin looked up and found the problem at a glance. Because many advanced and special magics require the use of special carriers. These books that record magic will also become different. It may cause certain harm to the reader. Therefore, these magic books will be set with prohibitions or magic traps outside. Only those who can break the prohibitions and traps can read. The spell of the sleeping fairy that Chu Zhang wants to read is such a book. But it is different from ordinary books. This book is not something he wants others to read, so he cast a sleeping spell and a sticking spell on himself, fixing himself firmly on the bookshelf for sleeping. Although the awakening spell used by Chu Zhang broke a spell, it is useless for the sticking spell. Moreover, she is in the 3rd grade now and can't use the flying spell, and it is impossible to defeat magic with magic, so naturally she can't get it. But this is not a problem for Emolin. He waved the magic wand lightly. All the spells that come with it are finally released. All the special books on the bookshelf stood up obediently and dared not move at all. The yawning, the spell of the sleeping fairy, instantly lost all sleepiness. If it is attacked by this magic, it is a question whether it can be preserved intact. The magic spell of the sleeping fairy is flying. Emolin was too lazy to find a ladder and directly used the flying spell. Here you are. Emolin handed over the book and explained the situation of the book. No wonder I didn't take it off just now, thank you. My name is Chu Zhang, what's yours? Merlin Huntel. Ah, so you are the Merlin Handel. After Merlin said his name, Chu Zhang immediately covered his mouth and exclaimed softly. He looked at Merlin carefully with excitement. Am I that famous? Of course. Chu Zhang nodded. A little wizard who could be praised by Professor Dumbledore before the start of the school year, who could freeze a giant squid in the 1st grade, and who could invent his own alchemical works, would be dazzling wherever he went. He pursed his lips and said. In fact, students in our college privately say that smart people like you should come to Ravenclaw. Well, I thought about it, but the Sorting Hat wouldn't let me go. Why? Chu Zhang was surprised. It was the first time she heard that the Sorting Hat would reject the request of a young wizard. It says that Ravenclaw only wants pretty girls. You are so interesting, how could the Sorting Hat say that? Chu Zhang reacted for a moment before he understood what Emolin meant, and couldn't help laughing. But in his heart, he really liked Emolin's high EQ answer. Really, if you don't believe me, I'll ask you again when I have a chance and you'll know. Okay. Chu Zhang didn't take it seriously and agreed casually. Then he curiously asked Emolin how he could use the flying spell that he was only taught in the 4th grade. Maybe I practiced a little more before school started. Emolin said truthfully. When he was doing alchemy in the leaky cauldron, because there were too many materials to find, he always used the flying spell to find things. He seemed to have become more proficient in it after using it more. It's incredible. I thought you were only good at alchemy, but I didn't expect you were so good at spells. Chu Zhang sighed, and then suddenly thought of something and took out a pair of magic detection glasses from his body. By the way, Merlin, your magic detection glasses are really great, but can I give you some advice? What? Many girls in our college think that this look is too ordinary, not very good looking, and has no personality. If it can be more beautiful, they will definitely buy it. Appearance? I see. Don't worry, I'll get a new one when I get back. Emolin suddenly realized and was overjoyed. The twins and Cedric have been helping him sell the magic detection glasses these past 2 days. But the unanimous feedback is that the sales are not optimistic. Girls buy too few. They all think that girls are not interested in this kind of technological alchemy props. Now after hearing Chu Zhang's words, they realized the root of the problem. It's that the glasses are not good looking, not that they don't like them. But Emolin himself has a straight male aesthetic and can't think of how to design them to look good. Oh, I got it. Aesthetics is not a difficult thing, just let someone with aesthetics take charge. For example, the person in front of me can do it. Emolin looked at Chu Zhang and smiled. Do you want to design the good-looking glasses you want? Can I do it too? Chu Zhang was a little excited, her heartbeat quickened. She just thought of her classmates' ideas and said it casually, but she didn't expect Emolin to actually consider it and invite her to participate in the production. This is a real alchemical product. Many Hogwarts graduates may not be able to produce an alchemical work. Certainly. But my spell level is not very good. It's just the appearance, as long as it looks good, I will implement the specific functions. But, won't this make me look useless? Chuzhong was a little frustrated. As a wizard, can only provide aesthetics in alchemical works. No, anyone can achieve the function, but aesthetics is priceless. If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have realized there was such a direction. Besides, if you help me sell, you will get a commission. Cedric and the Weasley twins are helping me. Okay. Then I agree too. Hearing this, Chuzhong no longer hesitated and agreed decisively. He also said that he could give Emolyn some glasses design drawings tonight. Don't worry, I'm good at drawing, you should be able to understand it. There's no need to rush. Don't you have classes in the afternoon? You know Professor Bin's history of magic. Chuzhong blinked. Merlin understood immediately. He gave a look that said, so you are one of those people. The two looked at each other and invisibly became closer. It seems that the old saying is true. If you want to get closer to the opposite sex, the best choice is not to do good things together, but to do bad things together. They agreed to meet in the hall in the evening. Merlin left the library and went to have lunch with his two godsons. By the way, he asked them how they were doing in the potions class. Chapter 36. Don't ask, Merlin, it's so dark. I even feel like a gorilla in Wakanda. Justin covered his face, too tired to speak. Where is Wakanda? Ernie looked confused. Just understand it as Vagadu. Merlin explained casually and continued to ask about their experiences. In the intermittent piecing together of the two, they finally restored what happened after he left. Because of Merlin, Snape seemed to be crazy and targeted the Badgers. Iron Hat King will be deducted 3 points for answering the question incorrectly. Justin will be deducted 5 points for putting the potions in the wrong order. Ernie will be deducted 3 points for reciting the wrong spell. Combined with the scattered questions from other Badgers, Snape deducted more than 30 points from Hufflepuff in a potions class. What about Slytherin? It was also deducted, but he added 10 points for Malfoy's dog urine-like potion. And that pansy, her hair fell into the crucible, and Snape didn't say anything. It's really hell. Justin clenched his fists in indignation. Merlin was calm and even felt a little normal. This is what Snape did. What happened to him this morning was simply wrong. But in front of his roommate, he couldn't say it so impersonally. It's okay, I'll see what classes I have in the afternoon and I'll earn it back. Charms class. Professor Flitwick, that's it. Merlin smiled and reminded his two roommates to practice the levitation spell in advance. How did you know that? Justin and Ernie looked at Merlin with strange faces. Were you accompanying that little witch from Gryffindor to class? Ah. Merlin was stunned for a moment, then realized they were talking about Hermione. He shook his head. I went to see Professor Dumbledore. Haha. The two sneered at the same time, not believing it at all. Merlin smiled helplessly. To be honest, you don't believe it, then there is nothing I can do, I can only keep it a secret. Soon, the three of them went to the hall and started to eat lunch. It must be said that the food at Hogwarts is still very rich. Various grilled meats, grilled vegetables, and desserts filled the table. It easily meets the needs of students from the 4 colleges. The new wizards were also shocked by this luxurious lunch and ate a lot. Merlin glanced over and saw Ron at the Gryffindor table, holding 2 chicken legs with oil dripping from his mouth. Harry was more elegant than him, but not much better. The plates were piled up to the top. Only Hermione looked much more normal, putting food on the plate one by one. It was her eating speed, almost the same as a hamster. Let's look at Ravenclaw. Chuzhong and his roommates were also eating. When they saw Emolyn, they smiled and blinked, and interacted remotely. I can only say that the senior sister smells so good. When I came to my senses, my 2 godsons had already filled their plates with steak, cake, muffins, and apple pie. They also enthusiastically invited Emolyn to eat quickly. Emolyn took a bite. There was no fluctuation in magic power, which was extremely disappointing. Eating things without magic power is just like eating garbage. Never mind. I'll just go get myself something else to eat. You want to cook for yourself? Go to the kitchen. Justin and Ernie were surprised. They didn't understand why Merlin didn't eat the food in front of him and went to cook for himself. How about you come with me and take a look? Let's go. Sometimes, adolescent boys don't need to say anything at all. Just follow me and they can be taken away. Even the little wizards are the same. Merlin thought of the things he wanted to experiment with, and went to find Hermione and Chu Jong. Several people were curious about what Merlin was going to do without eating lunch. But when they heard that they were going to the Hogwarts kitchen, they immediately changed their minds. Let's go. Chu Jong knew that Hufflepuff was the god in charge of the kitchen in Hogwarts. Following Merlin, he would definitely be able to eat different things in the kitchen. He wanted to see what was there. The little lion trio followed Merlin purely blindly. After all, they felt that Merlin was so powerful that he would definitely not cheat them. Hogwarts kitchen. Under Tamer's arrangement, the elves cleared a piece of open space for Merlin to use. And processed the ingredients of magical plants and magical animals that he sent to the kitchen according to his requirements. When Merlin and the others arrived in the kitchen, all the elves disappeared, leaving only the magic stove and a pot on the ground. Emmeline, you are preparing the crucible here, are you going to make medicine? Justin was puzzled. No, this is not a crucible, it's a hot pot. After all, Chu Jong is of Chinese descent, and has seen hot pot before, so his expression is particularly happy. I haven't had this in ages since coming to Hogwarts. Mullen, you can actually do this, that's amazing. Well, a Muggle friend of mine taught me how to make it, and I think it's delicious. It's great, it looks delicious to me. Ah! Emmeline was dumbfounded. Chu Jong, aren't you a Chinese wizard? You don't have to be so exaggerated, right? But seeing Chu Zhang's eyes, Emmeline suddenly understood what she meant. She didn't want to embarrass herself. After all, seeing that no one else recognized that this was hot pot. Chu Zhang's words could make them understand that this was food. Thank you. Emmeline blinked and signaled Chu Jong. Chu Jong smiled, brushed away the hair by his ears without saying anything, and responded with a blink. How do you eat this? Ron didn't care too much, just knowing that it was edible, he sat down and asked how to eat it. Harry sat stiffly beside him, just as confused. It's very simple, just boil water, cook these things and you can eat them. Isn't that just boiling meat and vegetables in water? Will it taste bad? The others asked nervously. Of course not, you will know in a moment. Merlin lit the magic flame and began to prepare the hot pot base. This was a secret recipe that he had spent more than 10 days preparing during his vacation. Old Tom couldn't forget it after eating it once, and even didn't care about the discomfort of the spiciness and wanted to eat it again. He didn't believe that these greedy little wizards could resist the temptation of spicy hot pot. Soon, the aroma of chili began to waft in the kitchen. Several little wizards couldn't help but salivate faster when they smelled the smell. Oh, Harry, this tastes so strange. I think it's going to be spicy, but I really want to eat it. Ron whispered to Harry. Me too. Harry adjusted his glasses, licked his lips, and looked expectant. Hermione was studying the ingredients to be eaten, and occasionally made surprised noises. No, wait, Merlin. You're cooking with ream beef? It's an ingredient for a potion. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is the leaf of the biting kale. Volcano frog? Ironclad shrimp? Nightmare bear paw? What a waste! A series of names were called out, and Hermione grabbed her hair and almost collapsed. These were all the materials she had dreamed of using for research. But the high prices made her only dream. Unexpectedly, in Merlin, these were just food. What made her even more unacceptable was that these things were placed next to the pot and smelled really good. It seemed that they were indeed more suitable than making potions. Goo! The little witch's belly made an honest protest. Chapter 37. The two godsons and Harry had never realized how valuable these things were. After listening to Hermione's popular science, they became panicked. They had never thought that the hot pot lunch in front of them was worth more than 10 galleons. One meal cost a year's pocket money. Mullen, this is too precious. Or maybe we just don't eat it. Yes, we can just go back and have lunch in the cafeteria. The little wizards refused one after another. Even Chu Jong, who offered to help, didn't know what to do. She really thought these were just ordinary ingredients. If she knew they were so expensive, she wouldn't dare to say anything. No need. I'll treat you. Emolin waved his hand to dispel their concerns. My friend told me that in his hometown, the happiest thing is eating hot pot and singing with friends. Although we don't sing, we are all friends and can eat hot pot together, right? As for the ingredients, actually, I have another purpose, you will know after you eat it. Hearing Merlin say this, the pressure on the few people was reduced a lot. Justin and Ernie looked at each other, hugged Merlin and called him Godfather. Harry and Ron laughed. The remaining Hermione and Chujong looked at each other, unable to understand the boy's bad taste, and continued to help Merlin cook. At this time, Merlin had finished preparing the hot pot base, and the water was completely boiled, just waiting for the dishes to start. Wait! Emolin suddenly thought of something and called everyone. He quickly took out a dozen bottles of seasoning. These are all the seasonings that my friend told me are necessary for hot pot. Just adjust them according to your own taste. Even Chujong was dumbfounded when he saw the seasonings on the table. Fermented tofu, chives, caviar, oyster sauce, soy sauce, the main ingredients are luxurious. Emolin, where did you get all these? Chuzhang's eyes widened, unable to believe it. These things were hard to get even in her family. She simply couldn't imagine how Emolin got so many seasonings. These were all given to me by my friends. I couldn't bear to eat them, so today we just happened to eat together. Emolin found an excuse to get away with it, without mentioning his research at the leaky cauldron. Anyway, today he mainly wanted to see how their magic power would change after eating. For this purpose, a control group was specially set up. Tamer prepared the water, and some of the vegetables and meat were cut by Tamer, and some were cut by Emolin himself. It depends on whether their magic power will change. In order to make an accurate judgment, Emolin forced himself to eat the hot pot with a sense of ritual. The first dish is the Roruium beef belly in clear water. After frying for 15 seconds, you can take it out and eat it with celery cha-cha sauce. It's hot. But it smells so good. Such tender and juicy beef, unbeatable, Molin. What kind of pig food was I eating before? It's delicious. Several people were very excited. But Emolin silently crossed it out in his heart. It seems that the magical animal meat handled by others has no effect at all, and there is no magical change. Next, try boiling the nightmare bear paw slices in water. Take them out after 3 minutes. They should be just crispy and tender. Eat them with chili sauce. Wow! So hot! So numb! So spicy! Water, water, water! I can't take it anymore. This is too strong. It's so spicy, Merlin, how come you feel this good? In the feeling of numbness, spiciness, and heat, Hermione found something different. Wait, have you noticed that your magic power has improved? Is there any? I'll try it. It seems to be true. I also feel a little improvement. The little wizards were completely excited. They picked up the nightmare bear paw slices in the pot and ate them regardless of the fact that they were hot, spicy, and numbing. A prompt popped up in front of Emolin. Host transformation magic world detected. Renovation scope, small, rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the item, magic potion recipe, can be used to prepare magic potion to hide the host's talent effect. Others can learn it, and the effect is halved. Good, good, good! Emolin exclaimed. He was thinking about this after verifying the effect of this cooking proficiency talent. What if all the ingredients must be cooked by him to have this effect? Now it's much better to have this potion as a disguise. Just say that you are a potion master. If you eat it yourself, you can just handle the ingredients casually and let Tamer do it. You win twice. A win-win situation. After completing the experiment, Emolin was no longer so particular. Anyway, it was quite tiring to introduce each dish, so he just found a reason to rush to eat more lively. Add the hot pot base and start to put the dishes on the plate. Several little wizards were sweating all over and twitching with spiciness. But they still couldn't help but use the fork. Well, that's right. Except for Emolin and Chujong who used chopsticks, others didn't learn to use chopsticks at all. They could only use forks to pick things out of the pot. But from time to time, they were scalded by the splashing oil and screamed. Emolin could only use the healing spell a few more times. After a hot pot meal, Emolin felt that his magic proficiency had increased by several levels. Maybe after he masters wandless casting, the first thing he will use will be healing. Everyone was sweating profusely after the hot pot meal. But feeling the magic power growing in their bodies, the little wizards were all hot and happy. Emolin kindly reminded them that it would be better to learn the clear water spell today. And in their questioning eyes, he told them that they would definitely use it tomorrow. Only Chu Zhang thought of something, gave Emolin a fierce look, shook his head and ran away shyly. In the afternoon, the badgers and lion cubs had a spell class together. Hermione sat next to Merlin and asked why his magic power increased. I checked the information, and there is no information that says eating food made from magical animals can increase magic power. Merlin, how did you do it? You read the wrong book. How could it be? Hermione was about to firmly refute, but when she thought of the theory of magic division proposed by Merlin on the train, she was not sure for a moment. She paused for a few seconds, pursed her lips. Is it really wrong? Yes. Merlin nodded casually. He wanted to talk, but seeing Professor Flitwick concentrating on his lecture, he didn't dare to chat openly. He pulled open the parchment and started passing notes. You must be reading Magic and Magic 5th edition. Yes, how did you know? The little witch's face was full of shock. This book was not a designated textbook for first-year students at Hogwarts. She went to the library to look up information purely out of curiosity about the growth of magic power. But Merlin actually told her what book she had read. This was simply amazing. There's nothing magical about it. I've read it before, so when you say that, I know you're reading this book. What is the reason? The little witch asked 100,000 questions and must find out why eating can increase magic power. Do you know about enhancers and nootropics? Of course. The enhancer is a potion made from salamander blood and griffin claw powder that can increase the user's strength. Intelligence enhancers are made from scarabs, ginger roots, and toad bile. They can increase the user's mental activity and make their thinking clearer. The little witch also drew a smiley face on the back of the parchment to show her knowledge. Emolin curled his lips and replied. If intelligence and physical strength can be increased with potions, why not magic power? So I did some research based on these two recipes and found that magic power can also be increased, but the appearance of the potion I made is a little different. Genius idea and creativity. The little witch obviously didn't know what to say, and left a bunch of symbols on the parchment. The following is a question from the notes flying. Molin, please, just tell me how you did it. Chapter 38. Just follow the method recorded in the standard alchemy, according to the potion you want to make, determine the materials, analyze the medicinal properties, try the formula, determine the efficacy, and determine the formula. Merlin gave a set of standard formulas for making new potions in the book. The little witch was furious when she saw it. Everyone would say such words, but who can research a new potion just by looking at this? Even if Merlin were alive, he might not succeed. Really, that's what I did, I'm not kidding. Hermione. Small head, big disbelief. Seeing the little witch like this, Merlin simply wrote down his complete thoughts. Throw out a problem, find a solution, start solving it, encounter a problem, repeat. Magic potions can increase physical strength and intelligence, so can they increase magic power? Analyze the formulas of enhancers and intelligence enhancers. Salamander blood and griffin claw powder both have ingredients that increase strength. Scarabs, ginger roots, and toad bile are stimulating and have the effect of improving concentration and promoting active thinking. So, can we find some magical materials to replace them? According to the analysis experiment of the magic potion law studied by Gobaro. In the end, the following materials can be used. Horclap juice, salamander blood, unicorn tail hair, dragon heartstring, wrote half a piece of parchment in bits and pieces. Feeling that his hands were about to break, Merlin handed the things to the little witch. Want to try to derive the recipe? Of course. The arrogant little witch took the parchment and began to think. After a while, she grabbed the quill and bit her lip. She wanted to write something, but she didn't want to destroy what Merlin wrote. She simply grabbed a new piece of parchment and began to write and draw. Merlin glanced sideways and found that the little witch was actually carefully deducing the formula of the so-called magic amplification potion based on Galobert's law. Although it can be seen that she is a rookie in the field of potions, there are indeed several combinations that she chose correctly. I can't help but sigh that the top student is really a top student. Even if he has just started, he has made such progress. After studying for a while, he may really be able to be a hands-off boss. The training of the little witch is over. Merlin plans to listen to the progress of Professor Flitwick's course. There is a pile of books on the podium. Professor Flitwick, who is of fairy descent, stood on it and put away his wand, as if he had just finished teaching. Merlin heard his voice as soon as he looked up. Now, children, let's try the levitation spell we just learned. Are there any little wizards willing to demonstrate it? The little lions looked around for Hermione. In the morning's transfiguration class, she successfully turned a match into a needle, thus earning extra points from Professor McGonagall. They thought it was time for her to show up. But Hermione had no time to care about the levitation spell. She just wanted to complete the formula and prove that she was no worse than Merlin. Isn't there a good boy willing to try? You don't want me to name any names, do you? Professor Flitwick's mustache curled up, his eyes serious. Professor. We can do it. In the Badger team, Justin and Ernie rushed to raise their hands and gave Merlin a look of Godfather New Beer. I'm just starting school and I can already date a little witch from another academy, that's awesome. Godfather, you are right, it is really a levitation spell. Professor Flitwick nodded happily, with approval in his eyes. As expected of a Hufflepuff Badger, he knew that he had to take the initiative at this time and not embarrass himself. Justin, Ernie, you two can try it. Professor Flitwick waved his wand and dropped a feather in front of the two of them. Just use the spell I just taught you to make this feather float. Pay attention to the key points, wave and shake, and recite the correct mantra. Wingardium Leviosa. Professor Flitwick kindly repeated it to the two of them. Okay, Professor. No problem. Justin pulled out his wand, stared at the feathers in front of him, and imitated Professor Flitwick's movements and tone poorly. Wingardium Leviosa. The feathers were motionless, not even bothering to move. Wingardium Leviosa. Justin was a little angry, waving his wand and chanting loudly, but there was still no response. Never mind, let me do it. Ernie stopped him, stood up and took out his wand. Wingardium Leviosa. As he waved his hand, the feather floated up from the table, flew in the air for a few seconds, and then slowly landed on the ground. Success, Professor. I succeeded. Ernie raised his head calmly, unable to hide the excitement on his face. Professor Flitwick had a complicated expression and shook his head slightly. Oh, Mr. Ernie, I think it's because you moved too much, and the wind was blown by your sleeves. The badgers around laughed, and even the little lion couldn't help laughing. As a wizard, he actually used his sleeves to fan the feathers, which was too outrageous. Anyone else want to try it? Professor Flitwick looked at the little lions. Harry and Ron lowered their heads for fear of being called. But Seamus Finnegan next to them did not escape being called. Oh, okay, Mr. Seamus, you show me. Okay, Professor. Seamus took up his wand and pointed it at the feather. Wingardium Levy. Bang. Seamus was halfway through reciting the spell when his eyes lit up, and then a huge ball of fire burst out, and black smoke came out of the classroom. The smoke dissipated, revealing the miserable state of Seamus and Harry beside him. The faces of the three were black, and their hair was flying, just as miserable as being blown up by explosives. Merlin clicked his tongue. He finally saw the on-site operation of the explosive genius. The innate explosive body really performed as stably as in the movie. No wonder he could become a school blaster in the future. Professor Flitwick was also a little surprised. After all, not everyone can use the levitation spell to have the effect of the blasting spell. But now is not the time to correct the mistake. Oh, I think you may need to go to the school infirmary. Professor Flitwick let the three people go, feeling desperate and not planning to try again. But after glancing at Merlin, he still felt a little moved. Merlin, you were able to perform a perfect freezing spell before school started. I wonder if you have any research on the levitation spell. Of course, Professor. Merlin stood up and waved his wand casually. Wingardium Leviosa. Everyone stared at Merlin's table, their faces full of surprise. The feathers on Merlin's table did not move at all. Merlin still held his wand as if he was holding something. The little wizards looked around. I said the spell was too difficult. Look, Merlin couldn't even make the feather float. It may be that he didn't pronounce the spell correctly. I couldn't hear it clearly. Seeing that Merlin was not okay, it was finally more balanced. But what is he keeping? Maybe he was stunned because he couldn't believe that he had failed to cast the spell. The young wizards couldn't help but discuss in a low voice. Professor Flitwick opened his mouth wide with a look of disbelief. Perfect. A very perfect levitation spell, 10 points for Hufflepuff. Hey! All the little wizards were stunned. No, Professor, Merlin's magic is so ineffective, how come it's still perfect? Chapter 39. Facing the doubts of the little wizards, Professor Flitwick gently waved his wand and motioned them to look down at the ground. Look, ah! Merlin's beard, why am I flying? Professor, what's going on? In the eyes of the little wizards, the tables, chairs, and them all flew up 1 meter high, and the whole classroom seemed to be floating in the air. The little wizards screamed and held on to the tables and chairs tightly, fearing that they would fall down in the next second. Merlin, you can put us down, Professor Flitwick said with satisfaction. Okay. Merlin waved his wand again. Now everyone could see clearly. The tables and chairs slowly fell under Merlin's spell, and there was not even a sound when they landed on the ground. As if they had not moved at all. Excellent magic control, beautifully done. Flitwick did not hide his admiration for Merlin. Only absolutely precise control of magic can achieve this, without any shaking or vibration. Perfect. I suggest you all learn from Merlin. Hufflepuff gets another 10 points. Flitwick generously adds points again. Hufflepuff has already got back half of the points that were deducted because of Snape. The Badgers applauded excitedly. The little lions gnashed their teeth and cried with envy. Even Hermione, who performed so well in the morning, only got 5 points. Who would have thought that Merlin would get 20 points in one class? But they also admitted that Merlin's performance was indeed exceptionally good. Professor Flitwick was not Hufflepuff's dean, so there was no need to favor Merlin. So they had no choice but to hope that Merlin would not be so good in other subjects. For example, potions or flying. Unlikely. The little lions shook their heads and shared their own intelligence. I heard from Hufflepuff that Merlin made Snape lose face in the morning and exempted him from homework for a semester. Merlin's beard, how did he do that? I want to be treated like this. As long as you can answer Snape's questions correctly and make a perfect potion before he teaches you. Forget it, Merlin's pants, I'd rather do homework. It would be terrible if you anger Snape and become his material for making potions. Merlin thought it was outrageous. I don't know who spread the rumor, why would Snape use a little wizard to make potions? No, it is clearly forbidden to use wizards to make potions. Professor Snape won't do that. Really? Yes. Merlin nodded seriously and refuted the rumor for Snape. He also explained his real punishment method. But he will ask you to sort out his storage room. There may be a lot of things in there that you don't want to see. For example, the venom of the giant spider, the horn of the poisonous horned beast, the nails of the voodoo doll, etc. Oh my! The little wizards were trembling with fear. They felt that this was even worse than being used as a material for making medicine. After all, the former only needed to die, while this one had no way to survive or die. Achoo! Snape, who was teaching senior students, suddenly sneezed. He shook the potion in his hand and poured a few more drops into the crucible. A green smoke suddenly rose, and sticky potion came out from the edge of the crucible, dripping on the ground and making the whole classroom smell of decay. The brothers Fred and George laughed in the audience. Is it funny? Mr. Fred and Mr. George. Snape flicked his cloak, and there was no use of the wand. The traces on the ground disappeared completely, and the smell in the air also disappeared. Professor, we just think this is a good reaction. You know, we like potions. Unfortunately, I don't understand. Snape said indifferently. But since you like potions, I have a good idea. His gloomy eyes fell on the twins' faces, as if looking at a pile of dry moon-crazy beast feces. The twins looked at each other and realized that it was not good. Just as they were about to argue, Snape waved his robe and turned around. Since you like potions so much, clean all the cauldrons before going back. Oh, Merlin's beard! The two wailed. There were a lot of disgusting things in today's potions, and they wanted to cry when they thought about cleaning for several hours. But experience told them that they could not argue with Snape again, otherwise the punishment would only be heavier. Merlin naturally didn't know the situation of the twin brothers. According to Professor Flitwick's request, he explained the precautions of the levitation spell to a group of young wizards and got 5 points again and left the class easily. Then he went to the hall with Hermione to do homework. The reason for choosing this place is also very simple. Merlin wanted to improve his magic power, so he specially prepared a lot of ream beef jerky. And you can't eat in the library. Anyway, he didn't have homework, so he studied the same way everywhere. It was just right to take a look at the elementary school bully doing homework. Brown hair drooped from the side, she chewed a quill while flipping through a book, frowned from time to time, and was a little cute. Glancing at her topic. On the influence of spell accuracy on the color and size of objects in transfiguration. What is the significance of this paper? It's because of Neville. What does it have to do with him? Merlin was puzzled. He remembered that Neville seemed to be okay in other aspects except that he was a little forgetful. During the morning class, Neville forgot the pronunciation of the spell and turned the match into a 3-foot-long stick. Is this okay? He almost stabbed Harry and Ronald to death. Okay. Merlin suddenly understood McGonagall's painstaking efforts. It seems that young wizards still need this kind of paper to deepen their awe of magic. The little witch wrote for a while, looked at Merlin again, and frowned. Merlin, you can't really not do any homework, right? I want to write it too. Merlin looked serious. But Professor Snape doesn't even let me attend the class, and Professor Flitwick thinks I'm not qualified to do homework. What can I do? The little witch rolled her eyes and was so angry that she didn't want to talk. She was writing a paper that was more than 10 inches long. And the little wizard next to her who only knew how to eat on the table didn't have to write a word. Now he still said such a rude remark, which was unbearable. Hermione simply couldn't bear it. She raised her hand and hit Merlin's arm. Hate it. It's not okay to tell the truth. Merlin stretched lazily and enjoyed the beating massage from the little witch. After a while, his ears moved and suddenly heard a low voice. Idiot, what are you doing? You only got this little information in one day. No, Master, this is really all. A familiar voice sounded, but I couldn't remember whose voice it was. Did you hear any sound? Merlin looked at the little witch. No. Hermione shook her head, looking normal. It's okay, maybe I heard it wrong. Merlin smiled and lay on the table to listen to the tiny voices coming from his ears again. Knowing that this should be the effect of super hearing talent. Impossible. A little wizard who can release a perfect spell can't be just a wizard in the Muggle world. And this orphanage, whose orphanage, it can't be here. The information must be wrong, Dumbledore is hiding something. Trash, go check it for me again. Tonight, if I still can't get the information of Merlin Handel, you know what will happen. If it doesn't work, I'll go ask in person. Hey! With this strange name, Merlin can be sure that this is the conversation between Voldemort and Quirrell. I really didn't expect that my super hearing talent can even hear such a secret conversation. But why did they target me? Chapter 40. After listening for a while, Merlin finally understood the cause and effect. It turned out that Quirrell went to the dark forest to pursue a stronger path of magic. Unexpectedly, Voldemort used words to deceive him into believing that dark magic was stronger and more profound than white magic. Quirrell, who was born in Ravenclaw, thought that he could control Voldemort in the state of residual soul. He agreed to let him parasitize on himself. Unexpectedly, Voldemort used an extremely advanced magic to bind him tightly. The two became existences that shared life. After that, Voldemort threatened him that he had become a dark wizard and made him become a servant to do things for him. As for targeting himself, it was because of the perfect freezing spell on the Black Lake. He felt that the gun really hit the bird that stuck out. He was just a little bit better than the freshmen of the same period. As a result, Voldemort thought that he was the person chosen by Dumbledore to deal with him. This is really far-fetched. To be honest. What kind of old Dumbledore would think that a first-year freshman would deal with the second-generation Dark Lord who controlled the entire wizarding world? Oh, it was Dumbledore himself. That's fine. I can only say that Voldemort is really good at judging people. Unfortunately, his vision was not good enough and he made a mistake. He really wasn't here to deal with him. It was too cheap. His goal was to transform the wizarding world. And Voldemort was just a small stumbling block on his way to success, nothing more. He didn't take action now because he was not sure how many relics of the Big Four he had taken. Anyway, he knew the plot, and he knew where Voldemort was without changing the big result. He would settle accounts with him after finding the relics. He listened for a while. It was probably similar to the original. Voldemort wanted to find the Philosopher's Stone to restore his body, and had asked Quirrell to explore the Forbidden Room on the 4th floor. But Quirrell couldn't get through the huge three-headed dog, so he had to think of other ways. For a moment, Merlin was a little helpless. He remembered that Quirrell was also a Ravenclaw graduate. When did the graduation requirements of Hogwarts become so low? After so many years of graduation, he couldn't even beat a three-headed dog raised by Hagrid. How weak was he? But it was hard to say that Dumbledore chose him on purpose. After all, a weak defense against the dark arts teacher could help Harry grow. Forget it, it's none of his business. Merlin heard that there was nothing else to say, so he simply stopped paying attention and continued to look at the homework of the top student. He glanced at the parchment. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes. While he was listening to Voldemort and Quirrell talking, the top student had almost finished writing the 8-inch paper. It can only be said that the top student is indeed extraordinary. If it were Harry and his adopted son, they would probably still be writing the title. However, after transfiguration, there is still the homework of charms. I'm afraid there will be no time to talk about magic potions after finishing it. Merlin yawned lazily, and when he was thinking about what else to do, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in the courtyard, smiling at him. Hermione, you do your homework first. I suddenly remembered that Ernie and the others wanted to talk to me. Well, Merlin, just go ahead and do your work. I'll go back home to deduce the formula of this potion after I finish my homework. I must deduce it. No problem. Merlin's mouth twitched. I didn't expect the little witch to still think about this. But it might be difficult. These materials are things that only 3rd and 4th graders can come into contact with. Even if the current elementary school bully has talent, the magic knowledge he has mastered is still too little, and it is difficult to complete this task. I can only pray for Merlin's blessing. After Merlin quickly left the hall, the figure waiting in the courtyard also appeared from behind the fountain. It seems that I disturbed your date with your junior high school girl. Should we come back at another time? Chuzhong smiled and looked at Emmeline. No, you came at the right time. I was just thinking about going back to do alchemy, and I still need your blueprints. Where are the things? Here. Chuzhong handed over a roll of parchment. Each of them had 3 or 4 pairs of glasses. There were different options from frame size to lens color. How about it? This is what I discussed with my classmates and decided on. It can satisfy the preferences of different people. Very good. Emmeline nodded. He really thought that the blueprint sent by Chuzhong was very good. Not only Hogwarts, but it is very likely to cause a sensation in the entire magic world. As expected, there is no simple little wizard who can stand out in the original book. Those around him are enough to build an entire business empire. But think about it carefully. These people are the future Minister of Magic, the owner of a well-known alchemy prop store, the top 10 students of Hogwarts, basically the most powerful people in the magic world. If they can't do it, it can only be said that the magic world is rotten. Wait for your finished product. No problem. I'll be leaving first. There's Quidditch practice tonight. I came here specifically to give you the blueprint. Come on, you can do it. Merlin encouraged. She remembered that Chuzhong in the original book was the seeker of the Quidditch team, so there would be no problem. But Chuzhong did not leave in a hurry after he finished speaking. Instead, he wanted to say something. What else? I'd like you to come watch the Quidditch tryouts next week, is that okay? Is this still worth watching? Merlin was a little surprised. According to the importance that the 4 major colleges attach to Quidditch games, shouldn't the selection of players for this kind be done internally? How can we invite outsiders to watch? It's always possible. Chuzhong said with a smile. Last year, I watched the team selections of 4 colleges and even developed tactics specifically for the game against them and trained for 2 holidays. Okay. But won't their team members change? Merlin is really not interested in Quidditch. He only remembers that when Harry Potter played, Lanfender basically never lost. He doesn't really know the rules of Quidditch. Chuzhang's interest is obviously much higher. Generally speaking, only seniors who have graduated and are looking for jobs will leave the team. Normally, players joining a team will have a playing period of several years, and there are not many people in one position, so it can basically be considered as not changing. Besides, I'm just a seeker, so it doesn't matter much to other teammates. I just need to keep an eye on the snitch. Oh, you haven't promised me to come to the trials yet. Chuzhong suddenly remembered something important and looked at Emmeline expectantly. Okay, I will go. It's settled then, pinky promise. Hey! Emolin was stunned. He didn't expect to encounter such a traditional way of making an appointment after traveling through time. He missed it a little. Chu Zhang thought that Emolin didn't know about this, so he explained to him that this was a common gesture for making an appointment in the East. As long as the little fingers are hooked together, it means that an agreement has been reached and cannot be changed. In our opinion, a pinky promise is a stronger commitment than a contract. Okay, pinky promise. Emolin looked at Chu Zhang's explanation, and felt warm in his heart. He reached out and pinky promised her. Their little fingers were hooked together, and their thumbs touched. All right. Yes. Chu Zhang blushed and let go. Then I'll go first. After saying that, she didn't dare to look directly at Merlin, and turned around and walked away quickly. Merlin watched her disappear in the courtyard, and then returned to the Hufflepuff lounge. With the new pattern, it's time to make new magic detection glasses. It's just in time to publish the guide to use the magic detection glasses to see if it can increase sales. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived at the kitchen corridor, Merlin met an acquaintance. Chapter 41. Oh, Merlin, that's great. Finally, I know someone. The little wizard in Gryffindor robes in front of him was Neville Longbottom. How will you be here? Rivet just ran away. I came to look for him, but I seem to have lost my way. Neville covered his head. I should have listened to my grandma and taken the memory ball so I could remember the way back. Come on, I'll take you back. Merlin sighed. Neville, like Harry, was the person who could kill Voldemort as predicted in the original book. As a little wizard from a wizard family, Neville's fate was actually very miserable. He witnessed his parents being tortured insane by the Death Eaters with the unforgivable curse, and he never woke up after being admitted to St. Mungo's Hospital for Witchcraft and Wizardry. His grandmother was worried that he would have a psychological trauma after remembering this memory, so she cast an oblivion spell on him. Maybe he was too young and the consequences of the oblivion spell were too serious, which led to his current forgetfulness. Merlin still had a good impression of Neville. After all, he was really simple and brave, and was a representative Gryffindor certified by the Sword of Gryffindor. But when Neville turned around, Merlin found something wrong. Wait, Neville, what happened to you? Merlin noticed a few unclear footprints behind Neville. I just dropped this. Fall. Merlin didn't believe such nonsense. What kind of good person would fall so hard that there were footprints on the back of his robes? Did he step on his robes after his lower leg was shattered? Then Neville should be on Madame Pomfrey's bed right now. He couldn't be looking for toads here. What's going on? Emolin stopped. If you don't tell me, I won't take you back. Okay, I'll tell you. Neville sighed and told you what happened just now. After the charms class, Neville wanted to finish his homework first. But he remembered that he hadn't fed Radford for a day, so he went back to the dormitory to find toad food. As a result, he met Slytherin students on the way. Radford fell off Neville. When Neville wanted to catch him, the Slytherin students stepped on his robes. Neville fell down the stairs and rolled down. After that, he didn't know what happened, and he chased Radford all the way here. So you're just going to let them go? What should I do? Of course, it's tit for tat. You should do the same to them as they do to you, and let them know that this is wrong. Neville was silent for a few seconds and shook his head. Merlin, I'm different from you. My grandma told me to be careful and not to cause trouble. When I encounter problems, I should endure them. Besides, I don't have your strength, I can't beat them. Emolin's eyes moved, thinking of something, and called him. Neville. Merlin looked directly into Neville's eyes. Remember, whether you can win the fight is a matter of strength, but whether you dare to fight is a matter of courage. I once heard a great man say, strike one blow to prevent 100 blows from coming. They bully you not because you did something wrong, but because they think you are weak. Do you understand? But my grandma always said that this is why my parents were hospitalized and ended up like this. No, Neville, your parents are heroes. If anyone dares to say that to you, you must beat him up. If you can't beat him up, come to me and I will help you. Thank you, Merlin. Neville was full of gratitude. After a moment, he asked a new question. But what will it look like if you beat him hard? Even his mother can't recognize him. Neville stood there, pursing his lips, and nodded with a smile after a while. Thank you, Mullen, I understand. When he looked up again, there was no more cowardice and fear in his eyes, but a courageous look. Host transformation magic world detected. Renovation extent, medium, rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the spell, magic contract. The host can designate someone to establish a magic contract. The contracted person can obtain half of the host's magic limit and the mastery of designated magic and talents. The effect of other people using it is halved. When the prompt popped up, Merlin was a little surprised. He just saw Neville's appearance and felt it was a pity. He wanted Neville to be braver. Not to mention becoming a sword master in advance, at least he couldn't be bullied by Slytherin. I didn't expect that this kind of encouragement could also be considered a transformation. And the reward given was a spell that had never appeared before. Judging from this effect, Merlin even thought that this should be a reward that would only appear after a major transformation. After all, rounding up, this is similar to inviting a god. Even if an outsider uses only half of the effect, he can face well-known wizards of the level of Dumbledore, Nicholas Flamel, Grindelwald, and Voldemort. Even half of the strength can sweep away ordinary wizards. Merlin was a little surprised to be given this reward. But on second thought, it was reasonable. After all, Neville is also an important character in the original work, and changing his personality is indeed a transformation. Moreover, the system can even judge and reward Filch for transformation. It's normal to give a better reward for transforming Neville. It's just that there is no place to experiment with this spell now. I can try it when Hermione wants to practice spells or alchemy or make medicine. If the brain of the elementary school bully is combined with my own magic and perception, then, it seems that it doesn't matter whether Hermione is there or not, and my brain may even be more useful. No. Is this a matter of the brain? This is an experimental spell, it has to be like this. Never mind, I'd better try it on my 2 adopted sons. Anyway, I bet a nut, they haven't done their homework yet. I can just check what they are doing on their homework then. After thinking this over, Merlin took Neville back to the hall, and after making sure he knew the way, he returned to the dormitory. Godfather. As soon as they entered the door, Justin and Ernie looked at Merlin and were extremely respectful. Explain. The homework Snape left is too difficult. Please help me, Godfather. They both wailed at the same time. What homework? It hadn't been assigned when Merlin left, and he hadn't asked them what the homework was before. Now that he heard it, he was a little curious. Justin was a wizard from the Muggle world, so it was okay that he had never been exposed to potions. But Ernie was from an orthodox 28 blood family, and he couldn't do it. Was it that difficult? He is not difficult, he is just outrageous. He asked us to prepare a fire retardant and discuss the relationship between the quality of the fire retardant and the flame temperature in different situations. He also asked us to conduct experiments ourselves. Merlin's beard. This is even more disgusting than Filch's punishment. Well, in fact, Filch has changed, and he may not punish the little wizards anymore. Merlin chimed in. He had worked so hard to reform Filch. If the little wizards still looked at him with tinted glasses, then his reform would have been in vain. Real. Well, didn't you go to the item duel arena? You can use alchemical items there in the future. If you apply in advance, you can also arrange a duel with Peeves. Exciting. Ernie and Justin were so excited that they even forgot their homework and wanted to challenge Peeves right away. You can, but have you thought about how to face Snape? Merlin reminded. The 2 roommates changed their minds and knelt down to ask the Godfather for help again. Chapter 42. The relationship between the quality of fire retardant potion and the temperature of the protective flame. Merlin felt familiar with the question. After thinking about it, he suddenly realized something. No. Isn't this the penultimate test of getting the Philosopher's Stone, passing the Black Flame test? I didn't expect that they would give a hint at the beginning of the school year. It seems that Snape and Dumbledore were well prepared. Even this homework was probably to help Harry Potter get familiar with the fire retardant potions so that he could deal with the last level. The little wizards from the other 3 academies were even supporting roles. Worthy of being an old bat. Merlin sighed and looked at Ernie and Justin again. What do you think? The 2 of them were stunned for a moment. What should they think? Or rather, what should they think? What do you think is the purpose of this assignment? Punish. Torture. The 2 said in unison, obviously full of resentment. No, it's obviously wrong to think so. You have to analyze, it's Snape's intention. He has many ways to torture you, why did he choose this one? The two were stunned. They looked at each other and shook their heads. Merlin, I don't know. That's because he wants to use this method to prove that we Hufflepuffs are no match for him. Merlin said seriously. Because of my performance in potions class, Snape hated us Hufflepuffs, so he made things so difficult for you. Why? They didn't understand what this mattered. Even Malfoy knew we didn't like Snape, but I slapped him in the face. What do you think? I understand. After all, both of them were of noble origin, so these simple interpersonal relationships were still clear. After a slight silence, I realized that this was Snape's revenge on Hufflepuff. But don't Slytherins have to do homework too? And Ravenclaw and Gryffindor? Ernie asked. Do you think Snape will deduct points from them? Well. Ernie moves his mouth and figures it all out. So, as long as we don't do well, Slytherin can say that we are still potions idiots, right? Smart? Emmeline nodded. So what should we do? We must not let Snape look down on us Hufflepuffs. After all, the two were new Badgers who had not yet learned the essence of the Badger House, the lying down spirit. Facing Snape's injustice, they still wanted to struggle a little. If it were Cedric, he would just say whatever, deduct points if you want, anyway, I am a Buddhist. But this also made it easier for Merlin to fool them. If they were not motivated to do their homework well, how could they test this magic contract? Start writing. The two spread out the parchment, took out the potions textbook, turned to the fireproof potion and began to review. Merlin also went to the side to prepare new magic detection glasses. By the way, he wrote a few letters to the shops in Diagon Alley to order materials. Cedric and the twins still had more than 400 pairs of orders that had not been made. Including the women's model designed by Chu Zhang, it is estimated that about 1,000 pairs can be sold in the future. About 3,000 galleons of income? Merlin calculated it and felt helpless. It was still too little. At this rate of making money, when can he switch to more advanced ingredients to increase magic power? It seems that he has to invent some other alchemical products. Merlin thought about things and an hour passed quickly. He got up and went to inquire about his roommates. The two were still lying on the table flipping through books and biting quills, and there was not a single word on the parchment. Merlin was dumbfounded. In 1 hour, even if it was an essay, he could write 2,000 words, right? He had made more than 100 pairs of glasses, but his two godsons didn't write a single word. How did he do that? This is really hard to write, Merlin. Justin sighed. I remember the formula of the fire retardant, but when I prepared it in the afternoon, I didn't think about the relationship between quality and flame protection temperature. Yes, as long as the potion works, who would think so much? And how do you test the quality of this potion and the temperature of the flame? You can't just drink it once and then burn it again, right? Ernie also echoed. Merlin shook his head. No wonder the system asked him to change the wizarding world. Even the Muggle world can use chemical knowledge to accurately analyze potions, and they can still use it. The ideas of these wizards are really too backward. Come, I'll teach you how to do it. Emmeline smiled calmly and began to talk about the control variable method that he had learned before. The two listened to Emmeline's lecture and gradually became dumbfounded. Emmeline inadvertently added a magic contract buff to the two of them, specifying the potion mastery talent. After a moment, the explanation was finished. The two came back to their senses, looked at each other, and felt the impulse in their bodies at the same time. Ernie, I feel so strong right now. Me too. I think this fire retardant is garbage. And this question is not reasonable. What is quality? Shouldn't the concentration of medicine be measured? Justin slammed the table and stood up. Well, Ernie, let's give Snape a little potion shock and show him who the most talented potions master is. Justin, you are right, we must let them know that Hufflepuff is the best. Merlin was speechless with his mouth twitching. These two godsons were a little too arrogant. He had only given them some talent for potion proficiency, so why were they so arrogant? They actually wanted to teach Snape how to make potions. They didn't know Snape's background, but he knew it all. This was a tough guy who could create his own spells in the 5th grade, and the method of making potions in the 6th grade revised textbook. If there was any problem in his field of potion science, it was that he had not yet joined the Extraordinary Apothecary Association. But Merlin believed that Snape just didn't want to join for some reason. Otherwise, with his identity as a potion master, there would be no problem at all. Merlin came back to his senses. His two roommates had already written half a page of parchment for their papers. There was a comparison between Merlin's experience in making fireproof potions and their own potion making. The papers they wrote were indeed good. But Merlin glanced at their content and still felt that it was a little outrageous. Justin's paper directly came up with a quantitative analysis. Combining my experience in refining and the analysis of the efficacy, I think the fireproof potion should have a proportional relationship to the flame temperature. A resistance effect curve is also drawn below. Merlin reviewed the homework of various young wizards he had seen before, and had never seen such an outrageous thing. He turned his head and looked at Ernie's paper. After a moment, his expression became more complicated. Ernie was writing quickly, not doing his homework at all, but writing a letter to Snape. Professor Snape, first of all, I think your assignment title is wrong. The quality of a drug is a subjective judgment. It can only describe the properties of the drug, not the effect of the drug, and is not convenient for learning. So I suggest you can define exactly what we are talking about, like what are the criteria for determining quality. I personally recommend concentration, turbidity, and magic fusion. The corner of Emmeline's mouth twitched. He didn't dare to think about what kind of storm would be set off in the potions class next week after this homework was handed in. He could only say that his godson was very brave. Just don't give him away if something goes wrong. Chapter 43. After reading the paper, Merlin went back to continue making magic detection glasses. When he was reading the two people's papers just now, he suddenly thought of something. Anyway, the glasses have been released, and he now has the title of genius endorsed by 3 professors, Dumbledore, Snape, and Flitwick. It is entirely possible to develop a new type of detection glasses to make the numerical display clearer. As long as it does not exceed the upper limit of magic detection that they think, there will be no problem. Moreover, he seems to have forgotten one thing: he should register a patent. Harry's family became rich by making shampoo. His product is obviously better than shampoo. But he certainly can't rely on his 2 godsons for this matter, he still has to ask the senior students clearly. For example, Cedric. Merlin went to the Hufflepuff common room to see if he could run into him. If not, he would ask someone to call him down. But he was lucky. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw Cedric selling glasses on the sofa. This is really the most popular alchemy item in Hogwarts now. With it, you can see the fluctuations of other people's magic power. Think about the prop duel arena, you don't want to be one step behind others there, right? I heard that wizards from other schools have started using fake props to attract fire, and then take the opportunity to throw real props to attack people. You don't want to be hit by props and make a fool of yourself, do you? And now it's 3 galleons, the lowest price ever. Buy. I'll buy a pair. The sunny boy smiled and handed over a pair of glasses, accepting the gallons. It took only 2 minutes from the time Merlin went downstairs to the time the deal was made. Merlin even wondered if this good man from Hogwarts had trained his eloquence with the twins. The sales talk was so brilliant. It was indeed researched by the 2 of them. Are they still so kind? Merlin didn't think the twins would generously share this routine with Cedric. Who knew? Cedric smiled knowingly. I guessed they would definitely come up with some tricks, so I found a little wizard and pretended to ask them and learned this routine. Emmeline clicked his tongue. Who says honest people won't turn bad? It's because there wasn't enough temptation before. Otherwise, honest people can turn bad much more than ordinary people. They can even steal business secrets. I can only say that, Cedric, you have learned bad things. For Quidditch. For Nimbus 2000, I can do it. Cedric nodded solemnly. Then he asked Merlin if there was anything wrong. Do you know how to apply for a patent? Patents? Glasses. Yes, this is now widely available on a small scale. I feel I need to apply for it as soon as possible to avoid any problems. I know that. You just need to take the sample and write to the Alchemy and Potions Department of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement at the Ministry of Magic. They will investigate and process it within a week. That's pretty fast. Emmeline nodded. Yes, but if you are in a hurry, you can pay an expedited fee of 10 galleons and it will be done in 2 days. That's it. Merlin doesn't need these galleons, time is what's important. After asking for the answer he wanted, Merlin took out the new glasses he had just made. Try it. Emolyn took out a pair of sunglasses similar to the Terminator. What is this? New glasses? They look pretty good. Merlin's beard. Merlin, what's wrong with this? Cedric said as he tried it on his face. At a glance, he burst into beautiful Merlin's words. The little wizards beside him looked sideways, and couldn't believe that the top student of Hogwarts would say such a thing. But Cedric had no time to pay attention to other people's eyes. He grabbed the glasses and confirmed them again and again, his heartbeat accelerated. He grabbed Merlin's shoulders. New. Well, it's the design provided by Chu Zhang. There are both men and women. It should be okay. Who cares about appearance? Tell me what's going on with this number. Cedric took off his glasses and was very excited. Wasn't it color before? I just saw that there is also a value in addition to the color. What's going on? How did you achieve it? Well, the principle is quite complicated. This value is the magic power contained in a drop of dragon blood as a unit of measurement, which roughly quantifies the value of the magic power in the object. If the opponent does not hide his magic power, then you can show it. However, the materials and magic in this version are relatively simple, and the opponent's magic value is too strong, which will show extreme danger. Got it. Cedric licked his lips and studied the glasses in his hand again and again. Honestly, Merlin, this is much cooler than the previous one. How is it? How much does it cost? I must get one. Are you not saving up to buy 2,000 light wheels? Emolyn asked back. This pair of glasses. I think they are still necessary. They can indeed prevent sneak attacks from others, and can also sense the increase in magic power. Besides, it's not expensive to buy it, and the light wheel 2000 can wait a few more days. Well, since you said so, then, the price is 10 galleons, and the first release of the new product is 7 galleons. Emolyn smiled and said. Oh no! How can it be so expensive? Cedric opened his eyes wide in disbelief. After all, the first generation product only cost 3 galleons, and this one is more than double. Poor little wizards may not be able to afford this thing. There is another point. They just bought the previous version of glasses, isn't this update speed a bit too fast? No, I have thought about this issue. I can trade in the old one for a new one. If you exchange your old glasses for new ones, you can get 2 galleons off. Merlin said the common routine before crossing over. Cedric was delighted at first, then counted on his fingers. If he used his old glasses to deduct first and then paid, it seemed that he only needed 5 galleons to buy this brand new pair of glasses with a cool shape and fine display of values. It was a good deal. Give me one. Are there other styles? Do you want to consider them? Merlin took out several other men's glasses. Cedric's throat moved, and he wanted all of them. But in the end, he comforted himself that one was also very handsome, and chose the same style as the Terminator at the beginning. A minute later, Cedric went out with his glasses to give new glasses to the twins. Merlin went back to the house to write the patent application and then went to the owl shed to mail a letter. By the way, he also wrote a letter to Mrs. Blotz to ask if there was a store with a suitable price in Diagon Alley. He wanted to rent one to sell alchemical items. After writing so many letters in a row, Merlin's wrists were sore, and he decided to speed up the progress of invention and transformation. Muggle mobile phones are not easy to use now. He doesn't count on mobile phones in the wizarding world for the time being. But the next alchemical product must be a thing that can write letters automatically. How about a shorthand quill pen? Merlin's eyes moved, and he thought of a new invention. In Hogwarts, where the academic workload is heavy, this is definitely a bestseller. How about giving it a try? Chapter 44. But it was already late, and he had classes the next day. Merlin chose to sleep, planning to study again when he was free tomorrow. After all, he was only an 11-year-old boy in his current body, and he still needed a good rest. He glanced at his roommate who was still working hard on his homework. Merlin calmly closed the curtains and went to sleep, feeling grateful for his thoughtfulness. Knowing that his roommates still had homework to do, he went to sleep without disturbing them. He was really... Oh, no, he was a good roommate at Hogwarts. Justin and Ernie, who felt like muggles while looking at their charms' homework at the table, suddenly fell silent. Justin, do you feel like this assignment is getting harder? I thought I was the only one feeling this way. Didn't they say Professor Flitwick's assignments were the easiest? Why didn't I feel that? Snape's homework must have consumed too much of our energy. Yes, that's right, it must be like this. But it doesn't matter, we still have talent in potions, and we will definitely shock them then, he he he. The next morning, Merlin went to the cafeteria again and ordered a bowl of fried dough sticks and soy milk. With the previous experience, Tamer quickly prepared new food for Merlin and asked Merlin if he could also send a portion to Professor Dumbledore. He likes to eat this too. No, the professor tried it last time after knowing that you guys were eating hot pot, Mr. Mullen, and then he probably fell in love with it. So I asked him to give him a portion every time I prepare food for you. Of course, he asked me to ask for your opinion, sir. If you don't agree, forget it. It's okay. I also want to know what Professor Dumbledore thinks of these dishes. It would be even better if he could serve them in school. Merlin drank the last sip of soy milk and nodded with a burp. By the way, you can suggest to Professor Dumbledore that the current breakfast mode is not very suitable. It may be better if it can be changed to a self-service mode. Self-help. Tamer was a little confused. He had never heard of this model. Yes, you prepare the food and put a basket of each on the table in the hall. People who need it can take their own plates. This will save a lot of trouble. You only need to replenish. As you wish, sir, Timel will tell Professor Dumbledore. Looking at Timel snapping his fingers and slowly disappearing in front of him, Merlin suddenly felt that he was a bit like Dumbledore. Using such a simple elf to pass messages is really a bit of a shit. But for the reward, it is worth it. He just added a dumpling breakfast to Hogwarts and gained the talent of cooking proficiency. If the entire breakfast pattern of Hogwarts can be changed, there should be a better reward, right? At least a mid-level transformation. I am excited just thinking about it. But we have to wait for Dumbledore's consent, it's still early. Take a look at the schedule. In the morning, there is a defense against the dark arts course with Ravenclaw. Is it finally time to meet Quirrell? Merlin is a little bit looking forward to it. Ever since he knew that Voldemort was looking for his information, Merlin wanted to see him. What does it look like? By the way, let's see if the lightning-struck wooden dragon whisker wand can directly save him. If it can, this first grade will have a very comfortable life. The third floor. The defense against the dark arts classroom. Merlin smelled a strange smell as soon as he entered the door. The room seemed to have a smell of onions and garlic from the sewer range, mixed with many kinds of complex potion scents. And the classroom is obviously on the third floor, which is a relatively well-lit location in the castle. But Quirrell pulled all the curtains abruptly, and the entire classroom was illuminated by only a few dim green lights. Although each classroom at Hogwarts is decided by the teaching teacher himself, there are really not many that are darker than Snape's potions classroom. All the little wizards felt cold, as if they were hit by a dark magic. Merlin, do you feel anything is wrong? Ernie and Justin asked quietly. It's okay, just a little dark, nothing unusual. The two of them were relieved. Besides, it's normal for there to be some dark magic alchemy items in the defense against the dark arts classroom. If you come across something you shouldn't touch, remember to yell for help, Professor. Hiss. The man shuddered, retracted his hand, and dared not be curious about the things around him. Merlin looked at the furnishings in the room with great interest. He recognized that those eyes that looked like wall lamps were the eyes of the 5-star magical creature, the green venomous scaled snake. Because it contains rich magic power and can continue to emit green light in its complete state, it is a material that many alchemy masters like. The eternal lamp made of it is also a valuable decoration. The only problem is that the blood of the green venomous scaled snake is extremely toxic and must be dug out within 2 minutes after death, or dug out alive to ensure integrity. It is extremely difficult to make, so the price is also extremely expensive. I didn't expect that Quirrell actually had 8 lamps. His financial resources are a bit scary. But it shouldn't be Quirrell's own things. It is very likely that it was prepared by Voldemort himself. After all, Merlin had seen other information before that the light from the green venomous scaled snake's eyeballs can restore soul damage, and it is a great tonic for restoring the soul after making Horcruxes. Voldemort made 7 Horcruxes, so it seems normal to have 8 lamps. But when Emmeline looked at the light, he inexplicably thought of the middle-aged man who soaked wolfberries in a thermos cup before he traveled through time. Thinking of this, Voldemort seemed to be even more miserable than them. He was the kind of person who had to apply oil all over his body to survive. It would be better for him to die. Emmeline sighed. Squeak. The sound of the door opening was heard in the office. Quirrell came out holding a large lizard. He still had the same purple turban on his head, and there was a strong smell of garlic on his body. Emmeline even smelled some rotten, no, it should be said that it smelled like decay. It was like the smell that only a dying person would emit. Professor. All the students from the 2 colleges stood up and greeted him. Their eyes were full of expectation. They knew from the seniors that the Defense Against the Dark Arts class was one of the few courses that could learn to fight against magic. But when Quirrell spoke, everyone's hope was shattered in an instant. Hello, kids, it's nice to see you here. I am your Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Quirinus Quirrell. They had never imagined that Quirrell was a stutterer. Could such a professor really teach defense against the dark arts well? He was afraid that others would have used several spells before he finished his counterspell. Professor, are you really okay? A girl from Ravenclaw raised her hand and asked. No, it's okay. I went to the Dark Forest on vacation and encountered vampires and a witch's curse. So, it becomes like this now. As long as the curse is removed, there will be no problem. Quirrell said, stroking the lizard in his hand and pointing to the purple turban. This is a gift from a prince in Filu. It can relieve the curse and avoid vampires. Let's open your textbooks now. Quirrell opened the textbook and started the class. Chapter 45. Quirrell took out Dark Power, a guide to self-defense, and asked everyone to open the book. Then he started reading the textbook. As we all know, black magic is a very special kind of magic. The caster needs to have strong negative emotions. Therefore, anyone who uses black magic will suffer a strong emotional backlash. Violent, dark, even crazy. Quirrell's voice was intermittent, and it took him several minutes to finish reading something that the little wizards could read at a glance. Merlin yawned. As expected, he shouldn't have any expectations for this course. He thought that Voldemort would continue to complete the collection that he had not completed after possessing Quirrell. Or like his Horcrux, he would bewitch 1 or 2 little wizards. But he didn't expect Voldemort to be so weak now that he needed the green poison scale snake eye lamp to illuminate him even during class. Looking through the magic detection glasses, his magic power was only slightly higher than his own. It was just dark green. Merlin suspected that he could even compete with Voldemort now. But in this case, Merlin suddenly thought of something. Quirrell agreed to Voldemort's possession and become his slave for the sake of powerful strength. But the current situation is obviously the opposite. Voldemort needs Quirrell to help him do things in order to prolong his life. But the voice he heard that day was clearly Voldemort threatening Quirrell. It seems that Quirrell was not very willing after discovering that he was deceived. It seems that I can try to persuade Quirrell to rebel. It just so happens that he has seen solutions to possession in many works. The simplest one is to seal Voldemort's soul. Make him unable to come out. At that time, Quirrell will no longer be Voldemort's vassal, but Voldemort's master. Thinking of this, Merlin was a little tempted. How about giving it a try? Anyway, my ability to persuade should be much stronger than Voldemort's, and it shouldn't be difficult to fool a Ravenclaw. Shouldn't that be considered a transformation of Quirrell? This is the biggest villain in the first part of the original book. If it succeeds, the reward should be huge, right? But what reason can make Quirrell change his mind? After thinking about it, since Quirrell is pursuing stronger magic, then Merlin raised his hand to interrupt the lecture. Professor Quirrell, I'm sorry, you know, I'm from the Muggle world, so I have a few questions to ask. Merlin. Quirrell was extremely surprised. He was still thinking about how to complete the task assigned by Voldemort and get in touch with Merlin. He didn't expect that he would have the opportunity now. Of course, I can answer any questions you have. Killua said excitedly. Professor, I would like to ask, what is the difference between black magic and white magic? And how do you distinguish between dark wizards and white wizards? Merlin asked. Quirrell was stunned. He didn't expect Merlin to ask this question. Although he taught defense against the dark arts, many young wizards didn't pay attention to the difference between dark magic and white magic, and only wanted to know some counter spells. The young wizards were also stunned, wondering if they had heard it wrong. There was a standard answer to this question in the book. Magic that requires negative emotions to be released is dark magic, and those who use dark magic are dark wizards. Anyone who has read the book will know. They didn't believe that a young wizard who could release a perfect level freezing spell and was a genius alchemist would not know. Emolyn, you know, it's written in the book that the difference between black and white magic lies in the user's inner emotions. Negative emotions will make your magic more powerful. So, is black magic more powerful than white magic? Yes, yes. Quirrell nodded. Merlin sighed and shook his head slightly. This was Voldemort's or most wizards' thoughts. They believed that black magic was stronger than white magic. However, next, he would severely change their thoughts. Merlin smiled slightly. But, Professor, I heard there is an old saying in the East that a black wizard is 1 foot taller than a white wizard. If dark magic is so powerful, why did 2 generations of Dark Lords lose to white magic? This. Quirrell was speechless. Yes, that's right. If they were stronger, how could they lose? Professor, what is the reason? The young wizards frowned and thought about this question. After a while, they still couldn't figure it out, so they raised their hands to ask Quirrell. They had always known that dark magic was stronger, and dark wizards were willing to fall for greater power. But Merlin's question changed their understanding. If dark magic was stronger, how did the Dark Lord die? Quirrell hesitated, unable to utter a word. He subconsciously wanted to say that the Dark Lord was not dead at all, but was on him. But he knew that if he said that, he would probably die in the classroom. But if there was no reason, could it be that these 2 failures were really because white magic was more powerful than black magic? Fool, don't be fooled by him, he is just quibbling, dark magic is the most powerful magic. Quirrell hadn't figured out what to say yet. A very faint voice came from behind his head. Voldemort lowered his voice and said, "Let me talk to him. Teach him what the real black magic is." "Master, are you still healthy? And this is Hogwarts, you idiot, I'm just using your body to speak, it won't take long." Emolyn wanted to listen to a few more words, but Quirrell in front of him suddenly became a different person. The timid aura disappeared, and his eyes exuded an air of looking down on the world. It was obvious that Voldemort had taken over the control of Quirrell's body. The Danger Foresight was also suddenly startled, and there was a hint of danger. Emolyn felt it, and it was not a big danger, so he didn't take it to heart. By the way, he felt that Voldemort was really impatient. He couldn't sit still and jumped out without a few words from him. "Merlin Hantel, I believe that the Dark Lord did not lose to white magic, he only lost to himself. If you know that history, you will know that when the Dark Lord ruled, no white wizard could stop him. He died from the rebound of the curse, that is, from his own hands. So, your statement is totally wrong." "So what is right?" asked Emolyn. "Emotions determine power. Negative emotions are easier to accumulate and perceive, so the power of black magic is stronger than white magic," Voldemort said gloomily. "So people who are good at using black magic are not happy enough, right?" The young wizards in the audience burst into laughter. "Looking at it this way, I feel sympathy for the dark wizards, a bunch of poor people without happiness. No wonder they went to Azkaban, because they were not happy. What a joke from hell, you should be in Azkaban." The little wizards laughed so hard. On the stage, Voldemort's face was dark. He wanted to say something else. But his body was not strong enough to support him, so he could only return to his body and fall into a deep sleep. His last thought before falling asleep was, "Merlin Hantel, I will remember you." Chapter 46. As Voldemort's thoughts disappeared, Merlin also felt a sense of complete relaxation. Looking at Quirrell again, he returned to his previous state of shrinking and stuttering, unable to speak for a long time. Merlin smiled and looked at him. "Professor, if you don't say anything, I will take it as you admit that white magic is more powerful than black magic. But I actually think there is no black and white distinction in magic." Quirrell was stunned for a few seconds, not realizing what Merlin meant. The essence of magic is to mobilize magical power, and it cannot be simply divided into black and white. Black and white should be wizards, not magic. After saying this, Merlin stopped looking at him and turned to look at other little wizards. The little wizards from the 2 academies had come back to their senses at this time and applauded Merlin crazily. They had only heard that the defense against the dark arts class at Hogwarts was very interesting, but they had never heard it would be so wild. They could actually discuss dark magic and dark wizards openly. But after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that there was no problem. The defense against the dark arts class did not discuss this, so did they discuss how to mix butterbeer? Just listening to Merlin and Quirrell's discussion, they were still confused. Isn't Merlin a first-year freshman? How does he know so much? Forget about spells and alchemy. At least it's in the textbooks, but what about dark magic, where does he know so much? Merlin, are you going to let others live? At this time, a little witch from Ravenclaw suddenly raised her hand. Merlin, if what you said is true, there is no black and white distinction in magic, then how are black and white wizards divided? The others fell silent. They also wanted to hear what Merlin thought of black and white wizards. It's very simple. Look at the purpose and effect of his magic. Auror uses the unforgivable curse to hunt down fugitives in order to defeat the dark wizards. His actions are just, so he is a white wizard. The robbers used the leg-locking curse to rob just to make themselves rich, which is also considered an evil dark wizard. Just like a kitchen knife, it can be used to cook and it can also be used to kill people. You can't say whether this kitchen knife is good or bad. Do you understand? Merlin said, and then looked at Qi Luo. It doesn't matter if you have used black magic or you are a black wizard. It depends on what you really want to do. Everyone in the classroom fell silent. They carefully savored Merlin's words. Even Quirrell was thinking about it. He forgot to assign homework and let them go. Merlin also got the reward as he wished. Host transformation magic world detected. Renovation scope, large, rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the spell, Magic Seal. The host can use this spell to seal the magic of a designated object whose magic is lower than his own. After being hit, it will be sealed. The magic can be restored after releasing the spell. Awesome! Merlin couldn't help but get excited when he scanned the panel. This was the magic that suited him best. After all, if he was asked to kill someone, he might not be able to do it. But the seal was different. It was completely free to use. And as long as the magic power was lower than his own, he would be sealed. It was simple and crude. I like it. Combined with his cooking talent, it was simply unsolvable. His future goals were clearer. Make money, eat, and seal anyone who made him unhappy. And more importantly, the system gave him such a high transformation evaluation. It meant that he had planted the seed in the little wizard's head that the textbooks might be wrong. When he came up with more new ideas in the future, the little wizards would be more receptive. It would also be easier to transform. It was a big win. However, what Merlin didn't know was that only a dozen minutes after the defense against the dark arts course ended, a discussion took place in the principal's office. Albus, is this the little wizard you think is talented? It's really good. I just started school and I can discuss the meaning of dark magic and dark wizards with the Dark Lord. Listen to what he said, it's outrageous. People who use black magic can still be good people? Do you really believe this kind of lies to children? Snape stood in front of Dumbledore in his robe and sneered. I believe it. Dumbledore nodded seriously. When he told me that I could control Hogwarts by collecting relics, I knew he was different from the people you thought. The ones I'm thinking of. Snape snorted. The Dark Lord? Potter? Who? It doesn't matter who it is. Dumbledore looked up, his blue eyes looking at Snape through the lenses. The important thing is that he knew what he was doing and did not do anything else because of his strength. Dumbledore thought of something and suddenly smiled and shook his head. Severus, believe me, Merlin will be the most unique one among these little wizards. In short, I think Mr. Merlin must have his reasons for doing this, let's see how he performs. Snape narrowed his eyes. Of course, Albus, you are the headmaster. But I still suggest you think carefully about what will happen if you let a little wizard take control of Hogwarts. Thank you, Severus, I will consider this suggestion. Dumbledore nodded slightly, and suddenly thought of something. Severus, I feel that you seem to have a special feeling for Mr. Merlin, even more special than Harry. No. Snape shook his head. I have no feelings for him, I just admire his talent for potions. Snape took out 2 bottles of fireproof potion from the inside of his robe and handed them to Dumbledore. If you look at this, you'll know what I'm talking about. A perfect fireproof potion. Dumbledore took the potion from his hand, looked at it for a few seconds, and returned it to Snape. Did you prepare this? Isn't it too early? No, this is made by Linear. In the classroom, in my... There are no wrong steps in front of me, and they are exactly the same as the textbook requirements. Snape paused for a moment and emphasized the last word. He even wanted to improve some steps, but he just kept them hidden. I have never seen a young wizard so talented in potion making. Dumbledore, do you understand me? You mean the potions tournament? Yes. Snape nodded, his eyes revealing a cold look. Albus, I must make it clear that since the Potions Championship began in 1407, Hogwarts has only won the medal 3 times. Do you know what people are saying out there? Said Hogwarts is a school that only trains dark wizards. I don't care about what happened before, but if there was a little wizard with such talent in my class, I would definitely let him participate in the Potions Championship. Let people from other schools know that Hogwarts is the place where magic and potions are taught seriously. Of course. Dumbledore adjusted his glasses. I will discuss this situation with Mr. Merlin, Severus. But it's still a long time before the Potions Championship, so let him enjoy his rare school life first. Chapter 47. Merlin was unaware of the discussion taking place in the headmaster's office. He was already in the Hufflepuff common room, accepting everyone's cheers and praises. Merlin, you are so right. I always thought what they said was weird, but I couldn't figure out why. After listening to you, I suddenly realized that this is indeed the case. There is no good or bad magic or magic, only wizards can tell the difference. I decided to elaborate on this theory in my latest paper. It's not that the black magic is too powerful, but that they are unhappy. Merlin, you are awesome. Seeing the young wizards open their eyes to the world, Merlin smiled slightly, feeling satisfied. The route of transforming the magic world from young wizards has begun. Now it's just a little bit. But he believes that as his influence increases, these young wizards will believe him more and more. At that time, the power that will burst out will be terrifying. As the saying goes, a spark can start a prairie fire. He is now lighting a fire. At the same time, in Quirrell's office. After feeling that Voldemort is completely asleep, Quirrell released several partition detection spells, and then sat on the stool to think about Merlin's words. What does it mean to use black magic but not be a black wizard? The important thing is to know your true heart and what you want. He always has a feeling that Merlin's words are spoken to him. But what do you want? Quirrell took off his turban. He showed the flat, grey, ugly face on the back of his head to the mirror. He recalled the encounter with Voldemort in the Dark Forest a few months ago. Voldemort used the power and mystery of black magic to attract him and make him look like this. He has regretted it countless times. But under the powerful black magic of Professor Voldemort, he changed his mind again and continued to be an accomplice. But Merlin's words gave him a new idea. If white magic is more powerful than black magic, why doesn't he study white magic in an upright way? There is no need to be a slave to such a half-human, half-ghost thing. Quirrell's mind moved and he felt something. Then he quickly hid his thoughts and forced himself to forget the previous thought. He regained his humble expression and wrapped his turban around his head. Kylo, what are you doing? Master, I'm thinking about how to build a good relationship with Merlin. After such a long period of running in, Quirrell already understood Voldemort's situation. As long as there was a little doubt, it would be a legilimency. Now that he was possessed by me, he could easily read my thoughts. So I just put it another way. Anyway, this was a task assigned by Voldemort. Very good, you go and contact him. If he is interested in the dark arts, you can reveal some information appropriately. Voldemort's previous anger had disappeared. Instead, he thought of something and a smile uglier than crying appeared on his face. Dark wizards have no happiness. What beautiful words, it really seems like someone Dumbledore taught this. However, the more beautiful something is, the more exciting it is when it is destroyed, and the more tragic it is. Voldemort's flat face actually showed a rich expression. If he is a pawn of Dumbledore, I will let him know that his kindness is worthless in the face of the power of dark magic. Go, my servant, find a chance to show him the true power of the dark arts. Voldemort fell asleep again. Quirrell was thinking about how to meet Merlin again and establish a relationship with him. There were too many people at the time, and he had no way to determine what Merlin meant. This time he must find a way to find out what he wanted to say. At this time, Merlin had finished eating the food specially prepared by Tamer and returned to the room to plan what he would do next. In terms of wealth, after deducting the share and the investment quota for the twins, Merlin still had more than 2,000 galleons from selling glasses. Although it was not much compared to pure-blood families, it was considered rich among most ordinary wizards. After all, the Ministry of Magic's workers, the annual salary of the staff is not that much. But it is far from enough for Merlin. He has calculated his monthly food expenses before. If he saves a little, it will cost about 15 galleons a day, which is 450 galleons a month. This is only eating magical animal meat of the level of ream beef. If it is replaced with crystal giant bear, griffin, dragon meat of this level, it will cost 2 to 3,000 galleons a month. Of course, Merlin dare not mention this idea to others. After all, these are rare potion materials in the magic world. If others knew that he used them to eat, it would be too hateful. Hey, Merlin, what are you thinking about? The Sorting Hat climbed up from the windowsill and yawned lazily. I have to say that the little wizard's rooms are really comfortable. They have slept for 2 hours, right? Merlin raised his eyebrows. From the time he brought the Sorting Hat back to now, he was so busy that he even forgot to take care of it. He didn't expect it to sleep for a whole day. It's really good at sleeping. What? I slept the whole day. Oh my god, what a waste of time. I haven't figured out what my new design will look like yet. Merlin boy, let me tell you, I dreamed of a very beautiful and elegant lady's hat. Her lace cap skirt, feather decoration, rose mesh, so fragrant, so small, so... Merlin stared at the Sorting Hat with a complicated expression. You are a product of alchemy, why are you always thinking about other women's hats? Is this polite? Who told you that you can't fall in love with alchemical products? The people in those magical photos can all fall in love, so how am I worse than them? Okay, you're awesome. Merlin was thinking about something and didn't want to pay attention to the Sorting Hat anymore. But the Sorting Hat was still chattering over there, yelling that he must go find a few people after he changed his clothes. Bright magic hat. That's enough. If you keep talking, you'll never be able to change your outfit. Why? What did you say? Merlin, you promised me. The Sorting Hat was so excited that it even used the brim of the hat to support its body and jumped up onto the table. No money. Merlin's reason was straightforward. Look at the materials you want, which one is cheaper? I can't sell you and then refurbish you, right? This is all? I thought it was a big deal. The Sorting Hat laughed, with a look of contempt on his face. It's just galleon, I have it. What do you have? Gryffindor's treasure. Didn't I tell you that Gryffindor left all the treasure to me after he left? He is the one who can find a goblin to forge the sword of Gryffindor. Do you think he would be short of money? Where is it? Merlin asked decisively. What do you want to do? Aren't you going to refurbish it for you? I have to go and place an order, right? Do I have to see how much it costs? What if there aren't many? Isn't it a bit too much to want to use those materials? That's right, fine, I'll tell you. Merlin didn't feel embarrassed at all. Anyway, he was not strong enough now and couldn't refurbish the Sorting Hat, so he might as well use Gryffindor's money to improve himself first. Then he could pay for a better Sorting Hat later. I'm afraid not. We will give you 7 more magic hats for women in various colors and styles, one will appear in turn every day. Merlin, what nonsense are you talking about? Who are you looking down on? I'm going to beat up 10 of you. The Sorting Hat yelled at the top of its lungs. Make a deal. Let's go now, it's best to improve your strength quickly, so that I don't have to wait too long. The Sorting Hat jumped onto Merlin's shoulder and began to point the way. If I don't refurbish it, I don't know how long this old wool hat of mine will last. Don't worry, once we have collected the materials and the magic power is able to operate the magic arrays on your body, we will immediately replace them for you. Okay, let's go. The Sorting Hat couldn't wait any longer and took the initiative to lead the way to open Gryffindor's treasure. Chapter 48. Soon, under the guidance of the Sorting Hat, Merlin arrived at the edge of the lawn outside Hogwarts Castle. Just in time, the magic clock rang out a clear time signal, and it was already time for the first class in the afternoon. Oh, boy Merlin, isn't it time for you to go to class? The Sorting Hat reminded. No, I've looked at the timetable. Professor Binns teaches history of magic in the afternoon. I don't think he would mind if I came to study with the historian himself. History itself? Who? You. Merlin said calmly. Professor Binns teaches the history of magic. Aren't you the living history of magic? History himself, I like this title, indeed, I am the living Hogwarts history. Ahaha. Mullen, you are really good at talking. I like it. The brim of the sorting hat fluttered, and he laughed loudly, with the tip of the hat swinging in a number of shapes. Then he called Mullen. Wait, I see it. There it is. The sorting hat suddenly hugged Merlin's head tightly, and the tip of the hat pointed to a statue holding a sword on the top of the castle. What is that? Mullen asked in confusion. A statue. A statue of Gryffindor himself. The sorting hat explained. This is news that only I know. Each of the 4 giants left their own statues in the school. Gryffindor told me that every statue hides a secret, and as long as you find the statue you can know what they left behind. I don't know about other people's statues, but Gryffindor told me that the statue is Gryffindor's treasure. Merlin's mouth twitched. How is he going to get up? At this height, it is really difficult to get up without a flying broom. Although Merlin can use other methods. But it is still during class time, and there are other wizards wandering around the playground. There is no need to attract other people's attention, and you can think of a way later. When Merlin was about to go back, he turned around and saw the little wizards coming out of the corridor, and there were a few familiar people inside. The leader was Madame Hooch, the professor of Hogwarts flying class. Merlin couldn't help but sigh at the ingenuity of the world. He just needed a flying broom, and he met the little lion and the little snakes taking flying lessons together. A light flashed in his mind, and he suddenly realized something. No wonder he felt that the statue just now was familiar. Opposite it is the statue of Neville's robe that saved the Gryffindor swordsman. So it seems that there will be good things later? Merlin was not in a hurry to go back. Simply found a piece of grass close to them to sit down and rest, and by the way, take a look at the famous scene of the century. Now everyone stand here and wait for me while I go get my broomstick. Madame Hooch said and left the venue. Merlin. As soon as Madame Hooch left, Hermione noticed Merlin on the grass and waved frantically. Merlin raised his hand and waved back in response. Harry and Ron stared at him, wondering why he was here. They were shocked and asked Merlin why he didn't go to class. I found a history of magic teacher who is better than Professor Binns to teach me, and Professor Dumbledore agreed. Merlin said calmly. He was not lying. Professor Binns was a professor who came to Hogwarts after it was founded. The Sorting Hat was there when the school was founded together with Gryffindor. And he did take the Sorting Hat away with Dumbledore's permission. His purpose was indeed to learn history. But it became incredible in the ears of the 3 little wizards. Ron even counted on his fingers. No homework for potions, no homework for charms, no history of magic. Oh! Merlin's beard, compared to you, I'm just a goblin. Ron was so envious that he didn't want to speak. Harry didn't say anything, but his expression said it all. Only Hermione didn't care about the homework at all, but excitedly asked if she could attend the professor's class with Merlin. He is better than Professor Binns and has Professor Dumbledore's approval, so he must be a good teacher. Forward. Merlin thought about it and shook his head. Strictly speaking, it is not a good teacher, but it knows a lot and you can ask it anything you want to know. But it's not convenient now. I can tell you its situation later. No problem. Hermione agreed decisively. Merlin couldn't help but sigh that it made sense for Hermione to be a top student. Not only did she take history of magic, but she also took the initiative to take extra classes. She is worthy of being the future Minister of Magic. In Slytherin College, a pair of eyes with grey pupils were staring at Merlin. They seemed a little curious, but they were hiding a sense of disdain and arrogance. Merlin felt Malfoy's gaze and looked over. He didn't dislike Malfoy very much. In fact, as an old aristocrat in the magic world, 24K pure rich and, his family is also a Hogwarts school director. In any other world, such a rich second generation basically would flirt with girls at the beginning of school, and then spend money to show off. Malfoy's performance in school was at best to attract attention and hatred, and he was not even a villain. Moreover, as a noble in the wizarding world, Merlin also plans to try to see if he can reform the Malfoy family. After all, he will have the leverage over the Malfoy family in his hands in another year. I believe they will cooperate. Besides, Malfoy is also his big client. It is said that in order to win people's hearts, Malfoy alone bought dozens of pairs of glasses. He contributed hundreds of galleons to himself. To read exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Thinking of this, Merlin smiled at Malfoy. Malfoy in the crowd shuddered all over, felt a palpitation, and quickly retracted his gaze. Before Harry and Ron could say anything, Madame Hooch had returned with a broomstick. The two hurriedly stood up. Madame Hooch waved her wand, and each little wizard had an extra broomstick beside him. Now, everyone stand on the left side of the broom, stretch out your right hand and shout, calling your broom. Just like me, get up. Madame Hooch stretched out her hand to demonstrate. The flying broom suddenly rose from the ground and crashed into her hand. The little wizards around were in an uproar. So cool! Really looking forward to it. But Malfoy's voice sounded lazily. But, teacher, when I was at home, I just rode and flew, and never did this. Isn't this redundant? Huochi looked at Malfoy with a calm expression. Sure enough, every year there are little wizards from wizard families who ask this question. The broomsticks used at home are not the same as the ones used at school. This command is to make it obey your command. Of course, if you don't mind the broom suddenly changing direction or doing other things while you're flying in the sky, you can just ride it and fly. It doesn't matter if you fall down anyway. Hearing this, Malfoy's face changed, and he didn't dare to show his superiority anymore. He obediently stretched out his hand to summon the flying broom with everyone else. 7. Stand up! Stand up! The young wizards shouted loudly. However, most of the young wizards' brooms just circled on the ground and continued to fall. Even several young wizards from wizarding families failed. Only Harry stretched out his hand to summon the broom, and it stopped steadily in his hand. Then Malfoy and others also summoned it. Everything happened the same as he remembered. The only difference was, when Madame Hooch was explaining the broom flying skills, Neville did not take the lead. Instead, he followed everyone and flew steadily in a circle before landing on the ground. It was another young wizard from Slytherin who fell off the broom before Madame Hooch could react. Madame Hooch hurriedly took him to the school infirmary for treatment, and warned other young wizards not to fly privately. After landing, the other young wizards gathered together to discuss their feelings about the flight just now. Hermione and others came to Merlin as soon as possible. Thank you, Merlin. Without your encouragement, I would never have the courage to take off. You may not know, I have always been afraid of heights. It was you who encouraged me to face it bravely, so that I dared to fly. Well done. Merlin patted Neville's shoulder and was about to give some encouragement to Hermione, who was excited. Malfoy's familiar and arrogant voice sounded behind him. Look, what did I pick up? Malfoy raised his hand, and a transparent glass ball reflected the sunlight, becoming particularly bright. Neville suddenly touched his body, and then his face changed. Malfoy, that's my memory ball, give it back to me. Remember, no? That's a really good thing, but it looks like you didn't remember to put it away. Malfoy said with a joking smile. Just now when our people dropped their brooms, you were laughing happily. Now your things are in my hands, don't think about taking them back so easily. What do you want to do? Harry asked. Of course, it's a real fight. I'll put the ball on the roof. If you can find it, I'll give it back to you. Get up! Malfoy said, summoning the broom on the ground and flying up on the ground. Get up! Harry was about to follow, but was grabbed by Merlin. Etc. Why? Merlin, do you want me to watch Neville being bullied by them? They were the ones who made Neville fall down the stairs yesterday. I know. Merlin nodded. But Neville has to learn to deal with them on his own. He must have the courage to face it and resist, so that they will know that he is not easy to mess with, and does not need your protection. But... Harry was about to say something, but Ron stopped him. I think what Emmeline said is right, and we can't always be with him. Neville, what do you think? Several people looked at him together. I believe in Merlin, I will go and get it back from Malfoy myself. Neville stretched out his hand to summon the flying broom. Get up! The flying sweeper who had just rolled around for half a day. Now it flew into his hands immediately. Malfoy, give it back to me. Neville pushed off the ground with both feet, took off from the ground, and rushed straight to Malfoy in the air. Chapter 49. Neville, be careful. Come on, show Malfoy some color. Malfoy, get him off his broom. On the ground, the little lions of Gryffindor shouted. The Slytherin students also cheered for Malfoy. I didn't expect you to be so brave. I thought it would be Harry. Malfoy sneered. Don't insult my friends. Friends? They let you come up alone. Are they friends like that? Neville looked down. The young wizards were standing on the ground. At this distance, he could not see their expressions. He could only vaguely hear their voices and see their movements. I admire your courage to come with me alone. Look at you, your grandmother must have taught you how to ride a broomstick, didn't she? Malfoy smiled and let go of his hand, tossing the memory ball back and forth in his hands. You are not allowed to say that about my grandma. You are not allowed to say that about my friends. Malfoy, I am a person, but you are also a person. Without followers, you and I are the same. At this moment, Neville thought of the encouragement given to him by Merlin, and the help given to him by Harry and Ron. His head was filled with blood, and he felt his face getting hot. He lowered his broom and rushed towards Malfoy. Malfoy was so scared that he immediately raised his broom to avoid it. This desperate method, once hit, both brooms would break. They might become the first wizards in the history of Hogwarts to break their brooms and die in flying classes. However, after he flew up, Neville immediately turned around and hit him. There was no skill or operation. He chased Malfoy as if he was determined to die. What a lunatic! Malfoy was frightened, raised his broom again, took out the memory ball and threw it hard towards 530 in the distance. I'll give it back to you. If you can't catch it, don't blame me. Then he immediately dived back towards the crowd. Neville stopped his broom in panic and tried to find the memory ball, but he couldn't find it. There. On the ground. Harry looked up and saw a glittering glass ball flying towards the castle. He didn't care about anything else and rushed towards the memory ball with his broom. Finally, when he was close to the ground, he leaned over and grabbed the memory ball, then instinctively raised the broom and stopped, flipped over and landed. All the little wizards of Gryffindor came over and cheered. Merlin borrowed Hermione's broom before Professor McGonagall came, and flew from the back of the tower to the statue left by Gryffindor. Old man, what should I do now? Let me think about it, Gryffindor's way of staying. The Sorting Hat frowned in thought. Hurry up. Merlin noticed that a figure in a dark green robe had appeared in the tower corridor. He urged the Sorting Hat to speed up. I was thinking. Isn't it normal for people to have a bit of a lapse in memory as they get older? Alaho hole open. Are we brave? For the glory of the Lion House. The Sorting Hat said several things in a row, but none of them matched. Merlin couldn't bear it anymore and pulled out his wand. Gryffindor treasure is coming. Even the unreliable sword shouted. But the statue didn't move at all, and even the dust on it didn't disappear. Damn Gryffindor! The Sorting Hat murmured, grabbing the brim of the hat. No, that's not right. He was clearly wearing the treasure I set up here before, and he even said that I could come here to get it when I needed it. Why is there no response? Emmeline was suddenly stunned. Wait, what did you just say? He told me to come get it if I need it. No, it's the previous sentence. He wears me. Yes. That's it. Merlin suddenly realized. Ravenclaw's golden crown is also worn on the statue's head. Slytherin doesn't have a golden crown, but in the movie, the basilisk also lives on his head. If Gryffindor also left something behind, the biggest possibility is definitely the head. No, not counting the Sorting Hat. There are other things. Merlin didn't have time to think about it, and directly grabbed the Sorting Hat and put it on Gryffindor's head. Hey, Mullen boy, what are you doing? Crack. A subtle sound came from the Sorting Hat, interrupting its voice. The next second, Merlin felt that something had changed around him. He looked down and found that no one, including McGonagall, had noticed anything unusual. It was as if something had covered and sealed the surrounding environment. It was the same as what Dumbledore did in Diagon Alley. No, strictly speaking, it was more clever than what Dumbledore did. After all, Merlin didn't feel any change in magic this time. If Dumbledore's magic power was 0.1 units, then Gryffindor's magic power wasted by casting a spell might be less than 0.01. What a terrifying magic control ability! Merlin sighed, quietly looking at the statue in front of him. From the moment he put on the Sorting Hat, the Gryffindor statue seemed to come alive, and his facial expression became softer. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Even. Merlin watched him change from holding the sword, letting go and starting to shake his body. If it weren't for the marble texture and features on his body, Merlin would have thought it was a living Gryffindor. But thinking of Gryffindor's specialty transfiguration, everything made sense. Oh, this is outrageous, the joints are rusted, what time is it now? Has someone finally discovered that my statue is here? It seems that the magic I left behind is still pretty good. Then he took off the sorting hat and tried to wipe off the stains on it. Little hat, are you okay? Has anything happened in these years? What a warm scene. Even though Merlin is so straightforward, he couldn't help but sigh. Although Gryffindor is also an old silver coin and left his own thoughts in Hogwarts. But at least it is much better than Slytherin. But in less than a second, as the sorting hat spoke, the filter in front of Merlin, Ajuk, was shattered into slag. Oh my god! Gryffindor, don't touch me, I'm covered in dust, I just had a massage, and don't scratch my eyes. Don't even think about using me to wipe your hands like before. Merlin retracted his gaze, only wanting to sigh, with such a master. It is normal for the sorting hat to be single for hundreds of years. It is not easy to survive with such a way of speaking. But Gryffindor actually listened to it, let go of its hand, and used magic to clean it. Well, that's more like it. The sorting hat lazily climbed back onto Gryffindor's head and found a comfortable angle to bask in the sun. Gryffindor, you said that after you left, if I needed money, I would come here. Now I want to renovate it, I should be able to get it, right? Of course. The Gryffindor statue nodded and then looked at Merlin. But first I have to see who is the little wizard you approve of. Mr. Gryffindor, good afternoon. I am Merlin Hantel, a first-year student at Hogwarts this year. Merlin greeted with a polite smile. You, wait! Gryffindor exclaimed with a strange expression. Why Hufflepuff? No, little hat, come down. Why did you choose a Hufflepuff as my heir? What? Merlin blinked, not understanding what was going on. Didn't the sorting hat bring him here to get the treasure? How did he become the heir of Gryffindor? Oh, I forgot. The sorting hat flapped its brim nonchalantly. He said at the time that when we go to get the treasure, we can bring a little wizard who I think is pretty good. He said that he would bring you here if he had something to say to the little wizard. But I didn't know that he wanted me to find an heir. Merlin fell silent. This sorting hat was either deliberately trying to trick people, or it really needed a new one to improve its IQ. No matter how you look at it, Gryffindor was looking for an heir, right? He forgot such crucial information. He really didn't know what to say. Gryffindor was also stunned, thinking for a long time, rubbing his brows. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. What time is it now? 1991 AD, Hogwarts was founded 1001 years ago. Merlin's beard, has it been so long since then? Gryffindor shook his head with emotion, and then asked if Hogwarts still has 4 colleges now? Certainly. So Gryffindor is doing very badly. No, on the contrary, it's good. Then why did he ask a Hufflepuff to come? Gryffindor still couldn't let go of this matter. How bad was the college founded by Godric Gryffindor that the sorting hat brought a Hufflepuff freshman to pick up something? Merlin saw that Gryffindor had no idea about the recent situation in the wizarding world. He briefly summarized the major events that had happened since the disappearance of the 4 giants. For example, the Goblin Rebellion, the Potions Tournament, the Triwizard Tournament, the first and second generation Dark Lord Rebellions. Gryffindor listened with great interest, occasionally making a few comments. Survivor. Dark Lord? The name is quite good, but his strength is really terrible. Isn't he too weak? Hey? The fairies also want to rebel? Their strength is simply. Never mind, it's a bit impolite to say it out loud. Also, who was in charge of the Ministry of Magic at the time? Could a group of goblins rebel and have their brains beaten by a troll? I don't know. Merlin shrugged. He really hadn't paid attention to who was in charge of the Ministry of Magic at that time. Somehow, Merlin suddenly thought of Hermione. If she were here, she would probably hold her head and shout why she didn't remember this person. She clearly remembered that this passage was recorded on page 182 of the History of Magic textbook, but how could she not remember the name? Merlin couldn't help laughing. Little Hufflepuff, what are you laughing at? Gryffindor was not angry because of Merlin's laughter, but asked curiously. I thought of a friend who is a Gryffindor student. After Merlin said what Hermione might do, Gryffindor couldn't help laughing. She is indeed an interesting little girl, but I feel she is more suitable for Ravenclaw. But, you haven't explained how you gained Little Hat's trust. Chapter 50. Little Hat was once again shocked by Gryffindor's outrageous name. Merlin told what he had done and his promise to help refurbish the Sorting Hat. After that, even Gryffindor couldn't help but click his tongue. Your method is really, okay. It really needs a renovation. Extraordinary magical talent, unparalleled alchemical ability, and such a bewitching ability. How come you're a Hufflepuff? You shouldn't go. Ravenclaw. Merlin asked tentatively. Of course not. Gryffindor shook his head. A little wizard like you is the most suitable for our Gryffindor. Courage, intelligence, unconventionality, and most importantly, the style of my past. Okay, now I finally understand why the Sorting Hat is this style. Why, you don't believe it? I believe it. Wait, Senior, I have something to ask you. Merlin suddenly interrupted him and talked about the voice he felt when he was sorted, and also talked about inheriting Hogwarts. He also studied the Sorting Hat before going to bed these 2 days and found that the soul inside seemed to have disappeared. But he was not sure whether it disappeared completely or was hidden. Let me see. Hearing this, Gryffindor did not dare to be careless and took off the Sorting Hat again to study it. After a long while, he shook his head. I didn't find any problems. The magic circle I left behind was intact. It shouldn't be a Horcrux. It could just be his idea. After all, he is a master of soul reading and telepathy, and knows a lot of magic and ancient magic patterns. Thoughts, that's fine. Merlin breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that it's not a Horcrux. Otherwise he would have to find a way to deal with the Sorting Hat, which would be even more troublesome. So you are a Horcrux in this state? Merlin looked at Gryffindor. No, this is an alchemical puppet, it just has a little bit of my thoughts in it, you can think of it as a high-level magic photo. Gryffindor stood up proudly and walked around on the ground. How about an advanced application of transfiguration? Not bad. Tisk, today's young wizards have such high standards. Has magic progressed so rapidly? No, it's just that I'm different from ordinary little wizards. Merlin said lightly. Well, it is true that ordinary little wizards would not be so calm when seeing me. Gryffindor said casually, without saying anything else, and walked to the edge of the tower to look down at Hogwarts. It's so great. I didn't expect that after 1,000 years, I would be able to see my school again. The last time I looked at the school like this was last time. This is really nonsense literature. Merlin complained. Bullshit literature. It's the same whether you listened or not, there's a lot of nonsense. Gryffindor laughed at this word. Is this the vocabulary used by new wizards now? Very interesting. Gryffindor said, looking at the sky. By the way, I don't have anything else to ask. Do you have anything else to ask? Please ask now. This puppet's magic power is seriously lost. I'm afraid I can't maintain this form for too long. Merlin didn't waste any words and asked the key point directly. Inherit Hogwarts, why did you make this thing? Ah, this. Gryffindor laughed awkwardly. In fact, at the beginning we never thought that anyone could do this. After all, after the castle was built, we had a fight over ownership and finally reached a consensus. Each of them left behind a few relics, which was a test. The little wizards who could be recognized by us would be eligible to own Hogwarts. As for whether they could find it later, we would talk about it later. Aren't you just avoiding the problem? Merlin was speechless. No wonder the ownership of Hogwarts has always been lost. The school directors are still responsible. He thought this was some special test, but he didn't expect it was just a simple failure to make a fuss, so let the people behind consider it. But Slytherin told you this, obviously to make you the heir, what do you think? I don't want to. Merlin shook his head. I'm interested in inheriting Hogwarts, but I'm not sure about being the heir of Slytherin. As expected, he is the little wizard favored by Little Hat. He has a lot of ideas, just like me. Gryffindor smiled and raised his hand to pat Merlin on the shoulder. Merlin remained calm and dodged. Gryffindor is now a marble statue. If he was slapped hard, he would probably suffer at least a comminuted fracture. Ahaha, sorry, I forgot what I was doing now. Gryffindor apologized awkwardly. Then he asked his soul. Then would you consider becoming my heir? I can give you all my belongings. Hey! Merlin raised his brows, a little dazed. What other relics does Gryffindor have? Aren't the hat and sword here? What? Are you shocked? Gryffindor said to himself, walking proudly. In fact, each of us has 3 relics, which means that we need to collect 12 to truly master the Hogwarts. Just a quick question, how many relics do you have now? 5. 5 too. Merlin's beard, what did you say? Gryffindor was so shocked that he dropped stones on the spot. To read the exciting novel, go to Novel Network. It's all here, take a look for yourself. Merlin calmly took out the things he had collected from the space and placed them in front of Gryffindor. Seeing his unbelievable expression, he felt secretly happy. Old silver coin. I let you show off, and you finally got it this time. Gryffindor lowered his eyes and stared at the Ravenclaw's crown and the key to the room of requirement that Merlin took out, and swallowed his breath. Merlin's beard, you've only been at school for a few days? How did you find so many things? Wait, aren't there only 2? How can there be 5? Your hat is here, and the sword, maybe you can take it directly from here. Emmeline stared at the stone sword in the statue's hand with ill intentions and spoke slowly. Hiss. Gryffindor suddenly felt a toothache. He rubbed his marble cheek and rubbed off a layer of dust and stone powder. How did you, a little badger, know about the sword? I guessed it, after all, the Ravenclaw crown is also placed on her head. Well, what a clever little fellow. Gryffindor did not hide anything and casually put down the marble-carved sword in his hand. With a flash of light, it turned into a real sword on the ground. This is the sword of Gryffindor. There are only 4 of them, what about the other one? I know where the relics Slytherin left behind in school are, but I haven't had time to look for them yet. He left a relic in school. Gryffindor was a little surprised. The secret room, or something inside it, anyway, in the school. Do you even know the location of the secret room? Almost. I have deduced the general idea, but it has not been confirmed yet. Pervert. Gryffindor was so shocked that he didn't want to speak. He always felt that his sleep for 1,000 years was a bit too outrageous. The new little wizard in Hogwarts actually knew Slytherin better than he did. I can't take it anymore. I need to go to sleep for a while. Gryffindor covered his head. What about the last relic? Merlin has not forgotten Gryffindor's promise just now. Griffin. I made the griffin at the entrance of the principal's office. If you say the command let's go, Griffin to it, it will become a fighting partner. Emmeline really didn't expect this to happen. When he went to the principal's office before, he subconsciously thought it was a reminder of the Sorting Hat. He never thought it could be the statue at the door. Sure enough, every one of these guys is an old silver coin. Why can't they be as simple as me? Okay, stop chatting. Let's talk about my business. The Sorting Hat shouted hurriedly when he heard that Gryffindor was about to fall asleep again. Where is the treasure you mentioned? Right on the ground. Gryffindor said in a low voice. I finally used all my money to buy materials to forge this sword, and this is what I leave for you. You big liar! The Sorting Hat shouted. Unfortunately, Gryffindor had fallen asleep and could not hear his voice. There was only a dazzling and gorgeous sword on the ground. Really good. Emmeline picked up the sword and said with deep emotion. The goblin's craftsmanship is really not simple, it can be both artistic and practical. Except for his poor brain, he is really a qualified craftsman. What's good about that? How can I make a fresh start? It's really hard for me. I trusted him so much and kept this secret for 1,000 years. The Sorting Hat pounded the ground frantically. I didn't even tell Dumbledore, just to wait for this treasure to renovate itself. Then he told me the treasure he left for me. It's this broken sword. Can I sell it and refurbish it myself? Besides, he never mentioned that he also kept a magic statue. If I had known this, I would have come earlier. The Sorting Hat suddenly grinned, with a distorted expression that showed a feeling of discomfort and excitement. Emmeline, what do you think my mood is now? Emmeline thought for a moment and spoke calmly. Knowing that your husband is gone, the inheritance left behind is from the mistress. Merlin. I hate you. The Sorting Hat fell on his head and was speechless. Merlin put away his sword, looked at the reminder in front of him that the progress of collecting relics had increased by 1 and left with satisfaction. Although Gryffindor told him the information of a relic, he still couldn't go over now. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain to Dumbledore. How could he tell Dumbledore after he cast a spell and the gargoyle followed him? Hi, Principal, your office security guard is actually my bodyguard. It was embarrassing to think about it. Merlin simply ignored it. He found a secluded corner, saw that there was no one around, used a spell to go downstairs, and then went to find Hermione and the other 7.